Chapter 185. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Sure, Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Yang Na glared at Wang Yu and said, "What do you mean by self-study? Do you think I'm some cabbage you can buy by the roadside? You can learn whenever you want." Love, Gobe Small, say, Netku the 7 steps of star constellation was the essence of the Yang family's martial arts. With the 7 stars footwork as the main principle, it was divided into 28 sets of footwork with a total of 108 variations. There are thousands of variations and endless variations. Even if a teacher taught him, he might not be able to learn it. This brat dared to say that he had learned it by himself. What's so difficult about it? I'll learn it after watching you walk a few times. Wang Yu said casually. You? Yang now wanted to scold Wang Yu for bragging. But when she thought of Wang Yu's footwork, she was shocked. Is he really self-taught? Yang Na asked in horror. Nonsense, I don't know the consequences of secretly passing and stealing a punch. But do you think you Yang family members don't know? Wang Yu said with disdain. Ew. How is this possible? Yang Na was completely stunned. After all, Yang Na had cultivated the first 14 paths of the 7 steps of the Astral Dipper since she was young, and she'd studied it for almost 20 years before she was able to attain small success. Wang Yu had only seen her walk it a few times, yet his cultivation had directly surpassed hers. This comprehension ability and natural talent was truly terrifying to the extreme. Does that count as stealing a punch? Fortunately, you met me. If it was someone else, you know the consequences. Yang Na stared at Wang Yu and said. Wang Yu rubbed his head and smiled. Isn't this something that can't be helped? Otherwise, I wouldn't have exposed myself. Yang Na turned her head and said, You're already married. If you don't want to die, it's best if you don't use it anymore. Do you understand? TSK. Wang Yu curled his lips in disdain. In the martial arts world, the rule of stealing fists was to show it to the public first, and then cripple the martial arts. Of course, there were exceptions, and that was for the continuation of the martial arts. The girl could use part of her own martial arts as a dowry. If Wang Yu really wanted the Yang family's martial arts, he wouldn't have to run away with Mu Zixian. While the two of them were talking, Brother Chun and Mingdo took turns to attack, forcing Kashmiri to walk towards the trap. Although mind control could control most skills and attacks, there were 2 skills that could not be dodged. One was an AoE skill, such as Toxic Nova and Fire Arrow. The other was a continuous skill, such as Distortion and Hellfire. The former covered a large area, exceeding the range of mind control's control. The latter, after releasing the skill, would last for a while. No matter how amazing mind control was, it couldn't extinguish the fire. Brother Spring and Mingdo's coordination was exquisite. There was not even a gap between their skills. Under the suppression of Mingdo's fire arrows and firewalls, Kashmir wanted to charge forward, but Brother Spring's demons surrounded him and wanted to retreat. Although Kashmiri's magic resistance was extremely high and the damage they dealt to Kashmiri was not great, Brother Chun's precise control of the situation forced Kashmiri into the trap bit by bit. Ping! Chun yu cha! The sound of the trap being activated rang out, and the energy balls around Kashmir's body all dissipated. Despicable adventurers, do you think you can defeat me like this? Kashmir laughed coldly. Indeed, Kashmir's resistance to magic damage was extremely high, and Bright City's lightning spell, which they had always been proud of, was not like Chi Wave or Holy Light spell, which could restrain Kashmir's magic, so it was not very effective. Brother Chun's poison attack had very little effect on a boss that was also of the dark attribute. Single and physical attacks could not hit him at all. Everyone had no idea how to deal with this rascal. After all, Ho was a boss that could only be fought after the players reached a higher level. At that time, there was no lack of light attribute AoE skills. Hee, this guy really knows how to brag. Wang Yu laughed and rushed forward with his staff. Io, is Old Cow going to solo the boss? The Chuanjin group started to watch the show. Can Uncle Nyo defeat Kashmir? To place one's pride asked worriedly. Just now, so many people, including Wang Yu, surrounded Kashmir, but they did not gain the upper hand. This time, it was Wang Yu alone. I think he can. Chun Xiang smiled and said, What do you guys think? We think he can too. Everyone said in unison. Chun Xiang was too evil. Every time, he would take advantage of the opportunity. What was depressing was that he would win every time. TSK, you guys are too boring. Chun Xiang's scheme did not succeed, so he raised his middle finger and looked at everyone in disdain. Can't do anything to you? Do you really think you're invincible? Wang Yu walked in front of Kashmir and asked him with a smile. When Kashmir saw Wang Yu, he was slightly surprised, and then said, I was just careless just now. Do you really think you can defeat me? I can try. Wang Yu smiled, then turned around and raised his hand to send a chi wave behind him. Damn, Uncle Nyo, what kind of strategy is this? To place one's pride almost spat out a mouthful of blood. If he couldn't hit Kashmir face to face, could he do it with his back facing him? He couldn't even find where the other party was. Next, to place one's pride's jaw dropped to the ground. Because Wang Yu and Kashmir were talking nonsense, the duration of the shackle effect was over. At this moment, when Kashmir saw Wang Yu turn around, he actually turned around and left. Everyone was puzzled. What's going on? Is playing a game so complicated these days? Wuji rubbed his chin and said with a smile, Oh, it seems like Iron Ox has already found the release point. In fact, just now, Wang Yu had already discovered that Kashmir's release point was actually himself. As long as he was facing Kashmir, single target attacks would never hit him. So, if ordinary players wanted to hit him, they would need high-tier light skills. Physical attacks would have a hard time hitting him. Of course, Wang Yu was an exception. After all, Wang Yu was not an ordinary player. Wasn't it just fighting with his back, facing the enemy? Then he would have his back facing the enemy. Wang Yu had always used Chi Wave as a secondary movement skill. So, Wang Yu was not very proficient in using it to attack others. When Wang Yu turned around, Kashmir had already run out of the Chi Wave's attack trajectory. At this moment, Wang Yu swung the long rod in his hand and swept it across Kashmir's leg. Kashmir was slightly shaken by the attack, and his body stopped for a moment. Immediately after, Wang Yu pulled back his staff and stabbed it into the ground. He grabbed the staff with both arms and used the momentum to fly up and kick Kashmir's back. 2789 Kashmir staggered forward from the kick and almost fell. Before he could regain his balance, Wang Yu had already retreated and leaned on Kashmir's back. Kashmir wanted to dodge, but Wang Yu used the ferocious tiger fist to pull Kashmir back slightly. Following that, Wang Yu's right leg kicked back and sent Kashmir into the air with a side kick. Wang Yu retracted her right leg and kicked Kashmir's, but with her left leg. Chapter 186. The move that Wang Yu used was called 9 Revolutions Chain. It belonged to the puncturing kick technique. If this was in the real world, Wang Yu would have been able to complete this set of kicks. However, this was a game, and his attributes could not keep up. Being able to complete 4 kicks had already exceeded Wang Yu's expectations. A mage without any skills would not have a good ending if a Grandmaster of Combat closed in on him. Kashmir was a high-level boss. Naturally, he understood this logic. Thus, after landing on the ground, Kashmir flipped forward and completed his quick recover in an attempt to dodge. Wang Yu wasn't flustered at all. She continued to retreat and stick close to him. She twisted her left leg and hooked on a Kashmir. Then, with a sudden pull, Kashmir was tripped by Wang Yu and fell to the ground with a Piaggi sound. Wang Yu took advantage of the situation to fall back and pressed onto Kashmir's body. Then, he slammed both his arms down onto Kashmir's back and used the momentum to fly up before landing with an eagle stomp. Duong, duong, duong. Boom! 3 eagle stomps and 1 thunder stomp landed on Kashmir's head. TSK, TSK, TSK. Everyone was speechless. Although they knew that Kashmir would torture Wang Yu, they could not help but gasp in surprise when they saw this scene. Puncturing kick was a fist technique that required agility and ruthlessness. Once it was unleashed, it would be continuous. Kashmir was unable to dodge or hide. He was stuck behind Wang Yu and forced into a shadow. Wang Yu used a compact, small frame to kick and crush Kashmir. There was no space for Kashmir to retaliate. A string of damage figures floated up. Wang Yu's combo had actually reached 87 consecutive hits. Before the 3 minutes of silent spell ended, Kashmir was kicked to death by Wang Yu. Kashmir could not rest in peace. He could not understand how such a shameless person could exist in this world. System prompt. You have completed. Reward completion rate, 15%. System prompt. Your party has cleared the Hell Mode Instance Dungeon. Time taken, 1 hour and 47 minutes. System prompt. You have completed the dungeon quest Shadow's Descent. Completion rate, 90%. World announcement. Players Iron Ox, Wuji, Bao, San, Chun Xiang, Counterattacking Tiger and White Emperor have cleared the Hell Level Instance Dungeon, Scarlet Church, and defeated the defending troops of the Dark Army. Their achievements will be recorded in history. The names of the 19 members of the team appeared on the world announcement 3 times in a row. When everyone saw the announcement, they could not help but feel excited. Entering the annals of history was the highest honor a player could receive. Look, I told you that the people of Chuanjin are unfathomable. Outside the instance dungeon, the gamers kept an eye on the progress of Chuanjin. When the instance dungeon reached 100%, the gamers who were pushing Chuanjin had a smug look on their faces. It was as if they were the ones who had cleared the instance dungeon. In the elite dungeon, the players of Gokuraku, who were fighting An Ariel, were stunned when they saw the system announcement. They were almost wiped out by An Ariel. Damn it, how is this possible? Did those crooked fellows really break through the infernal realm? Yeah, the elite dungeon is already so difficult. The Hell dungeon must be even more insane. So what? Our Elysium's elite group will soon conquer Hell. These guys were just lucky and got the first opportunity. That's a first kill, someone said unwillingly. TCH, it's just the first kill of a level 15 dungeon. Only a small guild like them would care about it. That's right. Everyone agreed. Inside Han's tavern, Bloody Rose, who was sitting at the table and waiting for someone, felt terrible when she saw the announcement. Bloody Rose had always been a petty person. She cared about personal gains and losses. The 3 of them had gone to the dungeon together, but she was the only one who had returned alive. At that moment, Bloody Rose was extremely upset. When she saw Bloody Rose and Bloody Rhododendron's messages to share their joy, she replied with a faint "oh." Then, she immediately blocked them. Bloody Rose's behavior puzzled the other 2. What's wrong with her? I don't know. On Blood Red War Flag's side, they immediately sent a message to Bloody Rose. How is it? Have you gotten the guide yet? No. Bloody Rose replied. Then, how did you guys clear the dungeon? Blood Red War Flag asked, puzzled. Bloody Rose thought for a moment and said, We can't learn their guide. We're all players. Why can't you learn it? Blood Red War Flag was suspicious of Bloody Rose. Take a look for yourself. Bloody Rose sent the recording of the entire battle to him. After the announcement, everyone walked over and gave a thumbs up to Wang Yu. Amazing. They were already numb to Wang Yu's craziness. You're welcome. If not for everyone's help, I wouldn't have been able to do anything to him. Wang Yu quickly said humbly. Wang Yu was right. If Counterattack Tiger and Chun Xiangmingdu had not silenced Kashmiri, Wang Yu would not have been able to fight Kashmiri alone. With the endless energy balls, Wang Yu would not have been able to even get close to Kashmiri. However, everyone understood this logic. Everyone's admiration for Wang Yu did not diminish. After all, there was no one else in the entire game who could kill a boss with his back facing it. The last segment was the looting of the boss, which everyone loved. Kashmiri was a high-level NPC in Hell Dungeon. Chuanjin's team was the first to clear the dungeon, so the rewards would definitely be very rich. Along the way, Wang Yu had contributed the most, but he did not get a single piece of equipment. Everyone felt bad, so in the end, the looting right was given to Wang Yu. Harming others to benefit oneself was one thing. They could not let others put in so much effort and not get anything, right? Wang Yu ran over excitedly and reached out to search Kashmiri's body. Commerce title deed. Quest item. This item belonged to Wang Yu. After Wang Yu displayed the quest item, he stuffed it into his bag. The second item, Thorn of Despair, Gauntlet, Epic, 1/8 inch old cow. It's mine. Wang Yu picked up the shard and showed it to Wang Yu. To place one's pride shouted and rushed over. To place one's pride had already obtained a shard when they were fighting Yin a few days ago. He did not expect to obtain a second shard so quickly. To place one's pride could no longer control his emotions when he thought about the attributes of the epic weapon in Yang Na's hands. Call me uncle. Wang Yu glared at to place one's pride. Uncle Nyo, you're the best. To place one's pride clenched his fists and started acting cute. Mingdu dodged the shard from Wang Yu's hands and said to place one's pride, Call me uncle. Screw you. To place one's pride roared and pounced on Mingdu. The third item, arcane magic orb. Ring, dark gold. Attack, 7-15 magic damage. 37-42 spell breaking aura. Reduces the magic resistance of enemies within an 800-meter radius by 20%. Arcane magic. Reduces cooldown time of skills by 20%. Maximum stack is 30%. Arcane magic. Increases casting speed by 10%. Arcane jump. Teleport to a designated location within 500 yards. Required class. Mage. Chapter 187. It's mine. Seeing the arcane orb in Wang Yu's hand, Mingdu, who was being beaten up by place one's pride, suddenly screamed and crawled towards Wang Yu. This was the first piece of dark gold equipment in the entire dungeon, and it was a piece of mage equipment. How could Mingdu not be excited? Moreover, the attributes of this equipment were so strong that not only Mingdu, but even experts of other professions were envious of it. High magic damage, magic resistance, cooldown reduction, increased cast time. Every single one of these were attributes that mages yearned for, and this arcane orb actually possessed all of them. What was even more valuable was that this piece of equipment even came with a skill that Bright City had been longing for a long time: profound transition. It was common knowledge that mages did not have movement skills before they learned Blink at level 30. Even though Bright City had a guardian conversion skill, it could be used to save one's own people. If it was used to escape, it would be very awkward. After all, guardian conversion was a skill that could only be used by the target. If one was surrounded, one movement would directly move into the crowd. If a mage moved into the crowd, the consequences could be imagined. At this time, with profound transition, Mingdu could be considered to have the ability to protect himself. Yours? Who the hell said it's yours? Wuji coldly looked at Mingdu and said, You F***king took a skill book, and you still want equipment? Have you forgotten that there are others in the team? As he spoke, Wuji pointed at the other mage in Xuanzhen, Meng Meng. Wuji, damn, you forgot about your... Just as Mingdu was about to curse in the guild channel, he was immediately banned by Wuji. Meng Meng was a very shy girl, and girls did not contribute much in the dungeon. At this moment, when she saw that Wuji wanted to give such a piece of equipment to her, she was shocked. No, Big Brother Wuji, I'm already very happy to be able to follow the group and get experience. How could I dare to ask for equipment? I think it's better to give this to Big Brother Mingdu. Meng Meng hurriedly waved her hands. TSK. Our Xuanzhen girls are so sensible. Wuji sighed and said, Since Meng Meng has said so, there are no outsiders here. I won't let you have it. I will give it to Mingdu first. If you need anything in the future, just tell us directly. Okay. Meng Meng nodded repeatedly. Wuji smiled and handed the profound magic orb to Mingdu. Wang Yu looked at Wuji blankly, and then looked at the four girls. Seeing that the four girls were grateful to Wuji, he secretly cursed in his heart. Buying people's hearts? How treacherous. They continued to loot the boss. The last item was Star or X6, rare mineral, an exquisite material used to create equipment. Blueprints were required to create equipment. Using rare minerals like Star or to create ordinary equipment would be a reckless waste of God's gift. In Rebirth, the attributes of the equipment created were generally better than the equipment dropped. Therefore, the exquisite blueprints would only be more expensive than the exquisite equipment. Moreover, they were very rare. Baosan was the only one in the entire group who had an exquisite blueprint. Wang Yu casually threw the star or to Baosan. Baosan said excitedly, I still need a few rare ores for my blueprint. This time, I can finally wear a set. Wang Yu said, my forging skills have improved recently. I can help you create it. Thank you, Nyoga. Baosin said excitedly. Wang Yu said lightly, it's nothing. I will help you after I return to the city to hand in the quest. After distributing the equipment, the Tiger Brothers and the Bloody Rose Sisters said goodbye to Wang Yu and left the group one after another. Once they left the dungeon, the four of them obtained a large amount of experience. At the same time, they obtained a gold-grade first clear treasure chest. When the people from Chuanjin were about to leave, Mu Zixin suddenly said, don't rush. The dungeon is not over yet. What do you mean, Sister Nyo? Everyone heard and immediately stopped. The completion rate is only 90%. There is still 10% left. Don't you think it's strange? Mu Zixin asked. After Mu Zixin said that, everyone realized that the dungeon had a total of 5 bosses. After killing all of them, the completion rate was not 100%. Could it be that there is another boss? Wuji asked. That's not it. Mu Zixin thought for a while and said, there must be some small details that have not been triggered. Small details? For example, after the boss dies, there is something left behind, but it is not a quest item, nor is it something that can be picked up. For example, it is not compatible with this dungeon. Mu Zixin said, in the game settings, these are all hidden details. Illidan. That's right, it's him. Before Mu Zixin could finish, she suddenly shouted, Illidan? What happened to him? Everyone looked at Mu Zixin and asked in confusion. After Illidan died, his scepter and longsword were not quest items and did not become dropped equipment. Mu Zixin explained. Ah, that is indeed the case. Once everyone was reminded, they immediately remembered that after Illidan died, his 2 weapons were stuck in the ground. Hurry up and go back. Thinking of this, everyone quickly ran out of the church and came to the courtyard. As expected, Illidan's 2 weapons were stuck in the ground. What's the use of this? Wang Yu walked over and pulled out the scepter and greatsword from the ground. He did not receive any system notification. Mu Zixin pointed at the pool not far away and said, don't you think there is something strange about the pool? Pool? There's holy light in the pool. Holy light was difficult to hide in this dark dungeon. Everyone casually looked and found the clues in the pool. Throw the scepter and greatsword in and try, Mu Zixin said again. Okay. Wang Yu quickly walked to the side of the pool and threw the 2 weapons in. As soon as the weapons were thrown in, everyone received a system notification. Your party has completed the dungeon's hidden quest purification. Reward, 10% completion rate. Your dungeon completion rate is currently 100%. Do you wish to leave the dungeon? After casually pressing the confirm button, everyone was directly sent out of the dungeon. System notification. Congratulations on perfectly clearing the Hell Mode Dungeon Scarlet Church and completing the first kill. Reward, 2 million EXP, Dark Gold Treasure Chest X1. The 2 million EXP instantly increased the experience of the experts above level 20 by 80%. Those who were level 15 increased their EXP by more than 2 levels. This time, it's all thanks to Sister Nyo, Wuji said with a sigh. Wuji found out from Bloody Rose that the reward for clearing the dungeon with a 100% perfect clear was twice as much as the reward for clearing the dungeon with a 90% perfect clear. The treasure chest's rank had also increased by 1 rank. It was nothing. If you want to thank someone, thank my husband. Mu Zixin turned her head and looked at Wang Yu affectionately. Seeing this, everyone was very envious. Nyoga, little brother Iron Ox, is really lucky. Speaking of which, Sister Nyo helped us cheat. Won't the company find out? Mu Zixin said, I didn't cheat. This is what I deduced based on the system settings. The system settings are introduced on the official website. It's not a secret, right? Deduced. Everyone was shocked. Finding 2 hidden clues from the simple system settings and increasing the dungeon completion rate to 100%, this girl's observation, attention, and thinking ability were really awesome. Brothers, take back what you said just now. Chun Xiang looked at Mu Zixin in fear and said to Wang Yu with the attitude of someone who had been through it all. Chapter 188. After chatting for a while, Li Shui and the other three returned to the guild encampment. These girls were now wholeheartedly treating their secondary profession as their job. Miss Shui, what about you? Why don't you stay with us in Chuanjin? After Li Shui and the other three left, Wu Ji turned his head and asked Yang Na. Usually, Wu Ji's brain was filled with lust. If it was any other time, if Wu Ji tried so hard to invite someone, especially a woman, to join the Quanjin sect, Bao San would definitely stop him. But this time, no one raised any objections. It seemed that the strength Yang Na displayed had convinced the experts. After all, when Wang Yu first entered Chuanjin, he did not make things difficult for her. She's not coming. Before Yang Na could speak, Wang Yu rejected for her. Meow. The relationship between the two was already awkward. If Yang Na came to Chuanjin, wouldn't that be playing with fire? If evildoers run wild saw it, with that big mouth of his, wouldn't the four aristocratic families know about it? There would be no way to live in the future. Wu Ji said coldly, "What does it have to do with you? You can't even control your own wife, and you want to control others?" Mu Zixian and Wang Yu glared at Wu Ji. Wu Ji was so scared that he quickly hid behind Yin Lao Air. Yang Na had always been a loner and had never thought of joining a team. But after hearing Wang Yu's words, her temper rose. Chuanjin is quite interesting. Since someone is so unwilling to let me in, I will insist on entering. Are you King looking for trouble? Wang Yu frowned and said unhappily, "In games, without a good team, even you can't clear dungeons. Why can't I join?" "That's fine." Wang Yu said, "My wife will also join. Does anyone have any objections?" The people of Chuanjin were slightly stunned. They looked at Wang Yu and then looked at Mu Zixian. Finally, they said, "No, of course not." Everyone was crying in their hearts. Damn it, what was supposed to be an elite team had almost become a group of friends and family. Although that was the case, everyone did not reject Mu Zixian. Wang Yu's face was only a small part of it. Logically speaking, with Mu Zixian's strength, it was impossible for her to enter Chuanjin's team. However, her understanding of the game was unparalleled. Such a capable person's value was not much lower than Wang Yu's. For example, in the instance dungeon just now, with Wang Yu's help, they had only cleared 90%. With Mu Zixian's help, they had cleared 100%. This was a game in holographic mode, and brute force could not solve everything. After pulling Mu Zixian and Yang Na into Chuanjin, Chun Xiang asked, "It's the last day. Are we going to hunt Nian?" Wu Ji smiled and said, "Forget about Nian. There are so many people fighting it. It's fine if we fight with the big guilds, but if we fight with all the players in the city, we'll incur the wrath of everyone. What are we going to do then? Level? If you want to go, then go. I'm going to Han's Tavern with Bloody Rose for a drink or two." Wu Ji said proudly. "What about Iron Ox? Are we going to hunt musketeers?" Chun Xiang asked Wang Yu. Mingdu said with a sly voice, "Chun, you're already so old. You really don't know any better. You're not going to accompany someone as beautiful as a flower, but an old man like you?" Chun Xiang was speechless. Wang Yu smiled and said, "We have to go back to the city to turn the quest. When we have time, we'll forge some equipment for Bao San. You guys go ahead and play." After saying that, Wang Yu and Mu Zixian said goodbye to everyone and turned to walk back into the city. All the animals surrounded Yang Na. "Sister Shui, do you want us brothers to bring you to level?" Yang Na shivered and immediately shouted, "Sister Xian, wait for me. I'm going back too." Looking at the backs of the three, Ming Jiandaoshu said in a deep voice, "Why do I feel like the relationship between the three of them is weird?" "Really? I feel the same way." Bei Ming Yu, who was also a thief, also agreed. Chun Xiang said, "Bad fate." After returning to Yu Huicheng, Yang Na asked Mu Zixian to go shopping. The two of them went offline early. Wang Yu walked back to the Castellan's mansion alone. Shopping. Women are really strange. How can shopping be more fun than gaming? Wang Yu complained in the guild channel. Shopping for women is like gaming for us. Wu Ji advised Wang Yu. "What are you doing? Shopping with a woman?" Wu Ji said, "Damn, no way, Wu Ji, you really like that woman?" Wang Yu asked in confusion. Wang Yu had interacted with Blood Rose a few times. She had a soft personality and was often hesitant when doing things. How could she get along with someone like Wuji, who is always scheming? No, I'm just enjoying the process. Wuji faintly replied, we've arrived at the tavern. In a bit, there will be a good show in Afterglow City. Are you holding yourself back again? Wang Yu sweated. Any fight with less than 10 people was not a good show for a living person like Xuanjin. After arriving at the Castellan's mansion, Wang Yu handed the deed to the Castellan. System notification. You have completed the hidden quest, Open Trade Road. Quest rank, A. Obtained 1 million EXP. A golden light shone down. The large amount of EXP allowed Wang Yu to break through to level 21. After reaching level 21, Wang Yu stood there dumbfounded, waiting for the Castellan to give him a reward. Who knew that the Castellan would ignore him? Hey, I've completed the quest. Where's the reward? Wang Yu asked the Castellan. Didn't I give you the EXP? The Castellan was even more confused than Wang Yu. Damn, didn't you say that you would give me the shop after completing the quest? Are you going to go back on your word? At first, Wang Yu thought that the Castellan was a rare good person. Who knew that after 2 encounters, he realized that the Castellan was a bad guy through and through. Compared to him, Hermit was much more noble. It was no wonder. The Castellan was involved in politics. How could an old beggar compare to him in scheming? Oh, the shop? You need the deed. The Castellan laughed shamelessly. Even an expert like Wang Yu felt a chill down his spine. Didn't I give you the deed? The Castellan nodded and took the deed in his hand. That's right. You have to spend money to buy it. If it was a normal person, they would have to spend 10,000 gold. You are our Yu Huiqing's hero, so 5,000 gold is enough. Wang Yu said angrily, You're holding my deed. The Castellan laughed. Child, how can you say that? How can the deed in my hand be yours? The Castellan emphasized the words, I and you. As he spoke, the Castellan asked the guard in the corner, Hey, guards, can you prove that this is the deed of the hero? The guards were low AI creatures, so they didn't know anything about proof. Hearing the Castellan's words, they surrounded Wang Yu in a flash. Damn! Wang Yu wanted to vomit blood, but because of the strength of these brainless guards, he could only swallow his anger and said, All right, are there any cheap shops? I only have 2,000 gold on me. Yes, there's a grocery shop at the southern gate of the city. It will only cost you 1,000 gold. Chapter 189. South City Sundry Goods Store. Wang Yu was no stranger to this place. When he was doing the alchemy quest with Li Shui, Wang Yu had seen this store before. There was only a sign on the wall, and it was not open for business. It was located in an extremely deep alley, and it was quite remote. In ancient times, the only business in the alley was, fortunately, this store was close to the city gate, and the players were quite lazy. If they could replenish their supplies after leveling up, no one would go all the way to the city. Thinking of this, Wang Yu happily paid the money and received the property certificate for the South City Sundry Goods store. After leaving the Castellan's mansion, Wang Yu did not immediately go to his small rundown store. Instead, he went to the broken alley on the central street to hand in his quest. As usual, Hermit got up after smelling the aroma of wine, took 2 big gulps, and asked with a smile, Why are you looking for me? I'm here to hand in my quest, Wang Yu said as he took out the warrior's persistence and a pile of materials and handed them to Hermit. Hermit's eyes lit up when he saw the things in Wang Yu's hands. He smiled and praised, Oh, not bad, not bad. I didn't misjudge you. Give me your weapon and ring, Hermit said to Wang Yu after taking the things in Wang Yu's hands. Wang Yu had just been fooled by the Castellan, so he immediately became vigilant and said, After I give it to you, you won't not return it to me, right? Nonsense. Do I look like that kind of person? Hermit glared at Wang Yu. Very much so, Wang Yu said with extreme distrust. I'm a decent NPC, and I work for my profession. I'm different from those corrupt guys. They work for the system, so they will naturally scam as much as they can. Hurry up and give it to me, or else I'll lower your favorability towards me. Hermit explained as he rolled his eyes at Wang Yu. He even threatened him in the end. Wang Yu was speechless. He handed over the warrior's sigh and warrior's glory, then stared at Hermit without blinking, afraid that he would do something bad. The martial scholar's glory wasn't too bad. Its attributes were average, so it didn't matter if it was destroyed. However, the warrior's sigh was Wang Yu's livelihood. If it was swallowed by Hermit, it would be a huge loss. Hermit didn't act shamelessly this time. First, he held Wang Yu's boxing glove in his left hand. Then he took out the warrior's persistence in his right hand. Immediately after, Hermit's left and right hands erupted with two dazzling lights, one red and one white. The two lights slowly approached each other, and after blending, the warrior's obsession disappeared, leaving only a pair of boxing gloves in Hermit's hands. "Take it." Hermit casually threw the boxing gloves to Wang Yu. Wang Yu caught it and looked at it. He was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. He took out a bottle of wine and said, "Teacher, you've worked hard." Warrior's sigh, boxing gloves, gold, repaired, upgradable, attack, 100-100 mana, 100-100 plus 15 strength plus 15 agility haste. Attack speed increased by 30% splash, 15% damage dealt to units around the target. Maximum damage value is equivalent to 65% of the attack power. Battle Spirit. Every 5% of HP lost will stack a layer of Battle Spirit. Each layer will increase the attack power by 1%. Special skills. Devour. Confuse with weapons of the same level to repair oneself and level up. Follow Heart. Can change into other weapon forms according to the player's needs. Current unlocked. Staff. Additional skill. Block. Level requirement. 15 class requirement. Martial Scholar in Rebirth. Players had 2 sets of equipment that could be switched during battle. For normal players, switching between 2 sets of equipment was enough, but it wasn't enough for Wang Yu. Wang Yu was a kung fu expert. He was used to deciding which weapon to use and how to fight based on the terrain and the enemy. Therefore, it was still very limiting for Wang Yu to only have 2 weapons, a staff and a fist, to use. This was great. The boxing gloves could be changed into a long staff. That way, the secondary equipment could be used to equip other weapons. This way, Wang Yu's combat ability would greatly increase. "Oof, brat." Hermit smiled as he accepted Wang Yu's bribe. He took the martial scholar's glory and the pile of materials in the same way. After the blue and black lights merged, Hermit also threw the martial scholar's glory to Wang Yu. Martial scholar's glory, ring, artifact, damaged attack, 20-20 mana, 20-20 physical defense, 20-20 magic resistance, 20-20 all rivers run into the sea. Low chance of learning the enemy's skills in battle. Load of Virtue. Contains 200 slots of storage space. Weight is not counted. Will not drop after death. Level of Repair class requirement. Martial Scholar after the repair, the attributes of the ring doubled. It even increased 200 slots of storage space that could not be dropped. If other players saw this, they would go crazy. When a player was born, they would have 20 slots. Then, with each level up, they would only increase by 2 slots. So now, even Wang Yu's bag only had 60 slots. Of course, players could store their items in the bank. However, the bank only had 100 slots. 200 slots was almost equivalent to carrying a warehouse. Most importantly, the storage space in the ring did not count. This was an attribute that many players dreamed of. In the game, the Grandmaster of Combat could not carry as much weight as the warriors and knights. Once they carried too many items, it would affect their movement speed and agility. A Grandmaster of Combat who was as light as a swallow could not jump up from the weight of a backpack. This was a very common occurrence. However, the white hero Wang did not seem to buy it. Instead, he had a dumbfounded expression. Could it be that bearing the burden means bearing the burden? Wang Yu asked in surprise. Hermit said impatiently, "Who cares? If the system says so, then so be it. You win." Wang Yu gave a thumbs up, took the ring, and put it on his finger. Wang Yu didn't have a lot of items, but most of them were good stuff. Rare ores, high-quality parts, and so on. They were all stuffed into the ring. When Wang Yu's hand came into contact with the skill book tumble, he took a screenshot and sent it to the guild channel. He typed, "Sell. Mine. He did not know what the animals in Xuanzhen were doing. They actually opened the guild channel and shouted when they saw the skill book. Is this thing worth a lot? Wang Yu asked in confusion. Everyone looked at Wang Yu in disdain. Of course, this is an evasion skill. Wang Yu was a master of Kung Fu. Rolling and evading was a piece of cake. Of course, he did not care about this skill book. However, in the game, without the assistance of the system, it was still very difficult for a player to perform a smooth rolling movement. For specific examples, you can refer to the opening scene of Stephen Chow in Imperial Secret Agent. Therefore, this kind of evasion skill was more valuable than offensive skills in a group of normal players. We'll see how it goes. Seeing that everyone was so interested in this skill book, Wang Yu did not embarrass himself by asking why this skill was so powerful. Instead, he casually said it. Wang Yu knew that everyone would definitely not treat him badly. Chapter 190. After negotiation, the skill was given to Yin Lao Heir for 50 gold. This was also reasonable. In the Chuanjin sect, one had to first learn how to run. The others could either move stealthily, teleport, or fight. Chun Xiang could even fly, so he more or less had some means of escape. Only Yin Lao had low attack power and short legs. Once he was targeted, he could only become a target. Moreover, Yin Lao Heir was Chuanjin's frontline. With an escape skill, everyone had a higher chance of success in the dungeon. Say, what are you guys doing? Why do you guys look so relaxed? Wang Yu asked in confusion. Everyone laughed. Hee, we're waiting for Wuji to drop equipment. Wuji is the director in the tavern. Wang Yu, back to Han's Tavern Blood Rose, and Southern Yin Fudi had agreed to meet at the tavern for the transaction. Just as the two of them were about to exchange the goods, the door to the tavern suddenly opened and Wuji walked in with Blood Rose. Southern Yin Fudi was a very high-profile person, so the two of them chose a very conspicuous spot. The moment Wuji and Blood Rose entered the door, they bumped into the two of them. Huh, isn't this him? Wuji pretended to forget Bloody Rose's name and asked, Hey, is this your boyfriend? He's quite handsome. Let me introduce him. Wuji waved at Bloody Rose and asked. Blood Rose looked at the Blood Rose, then looked at the emblem on Fudi's chest. Her pupils shrank, and she cried out in surprise. Rose, what do you mean by this? Blood Rose pointed at Blood Rose. Her eyes were filled with shock and anger. Bloody Rose grabbed her purse with one hand and stammered, not knowing what to say. The moment Wuji pointed at her, Bloody Rose had a bad feeling. Yu Huicheng was originally the Blood Alliance's territory, and the Pure Land of Bliss had recently come here to develop their forces. Although the two seemed to be on good terms on the surface, there were many conflicts in the dark. At a time like this, Blood Rose's choice to make a deal with Southern Yinfu was already suspicious. Furthermore, in the dungeon, Blood Rose had even set up Chuanjin, who already had an ambiguous relationship with the Blood Alliance. After that, Wuji's words made Blood Rose even more suspicious of her. Now that Blood Rose and Southern King Fu Ti's transaction had been coincidentally witnessed by Blood Rose, there was no way she could clear her name no matter what she said. Didn't take any money? Bloody Rose was still holding the money bag. Buying and selling equipment? Wasn't that even more ridiculous? Why did he have to sell it to someone from the Gokura Kujodo? Just as Bloody Rose was about to explain that it was Southern King Fu Ti who took the initiative to find her, Wuji chuckled. So it's the famous Southern King Fu Ti. Rose, your sister is stronger than you. She managed to find such a super expert. Bloody Rose's last explanation was also choked by Wuji. Who was Southern King Fu Ti? Would he buy something from a little girl? And he even took the initiative to find her? You only got this equipment a few days ago. Has it already spread all over the world? Blood Silk Rose glared at Wuji with hatred. Wuji smiled back, as if to say, Little guy, you want to play with me? Bloody Rose looked at Bloody Rose. In the past, the more she trusted this sister, the more she hated her. Betrayal was what Bloody Rose hated the most. This was because Bloody Rose used to be the leader of a famous guild. Later on, Bloody Rose's most trusted companion took the guild's elites and joined another guild for money. From then on, Bloody Rose's guild never recovered. It could only be a vassal of Blood Alliance and was ridiculed in all sorts of ways. Bloody Rose looked at Bloody Rose's despairing eyes and didn't know what to say. At this moment, Southern King Fu-Ti walked over and said, "Leader Rose, I think you have misunderstood." Actually, before Southern King Fu-Ti could finish, a few players appeared nearby and shouted, "Fuck you! You actually dared to poach our Blood Alliance members in Yu Huicheng." At the same time, they swung their weapons at Southern King Fu-Ti. It can't be. I actually encountered such a thing?" Wuji pretended to be surprised as he asked Bloody Rose. These players that appeared out of nowhere were really noobs. Southern King Fu-Ti was an expert after changing his class. Holy Light, Holy Fire, Soul Burn. Although Southern King Fu-Ti was just a priest, he was a pure money player. His attack was high, not any lower than a first-rate mage's. These noobs were instantly killed by him. When the people in the bar saw this, a few people who wanted to watch the show immediately shouted and ran out. D***M, Blood Alliance and Pure Land of Bliss are fighting. When Southern King Fu-Ti heard this, he felt his hair stand on end. No matter how strong he was, offending Blood Alliance in Yu Huicheng was not a good thing. Thus, he hurriedly blew his whistle to call for reinforcements. "I was ambushed by Blood Alliance in Yu Huicheng. Come help me." After sending the message, Southern King Fu-Ti was about to run out of the door. "Rose, don't let him go." In the blink of an eye, Wuji raised his hand and threw a fear onto Southern King Fu-Ti's head. Bloody Rose reacted and used charge, ramming into Southern King Fu-Ti's body. Southern King Fu-Ti was a cloth armor class, so how could he win against a knight who was known for his toughness? He was immediately sent flying into the counter by Bloody Rose. At this moment, the Blood Alliance players on the streets heard the shouts and rushed to the bar. "Sister Rose, what's going on?" Wuji pointed at Bloody Rose and said casually, "It seems like she's a traitor and was found out by Rose. Her lover wants to kill her." "Damn, kill him in the game." D***M, I'm going to kill you." Bloody Rose roared and charged at Wuji. Wuji, of course, wouldn't personally kill her. He dodged and said, "Do you see that? I exposed her and she's furious." "Is that so?" The Blood Alliance players turned to ask Bloody Rose. At this moment, Southern King Fu-Ti had already climbed out. He waved his staff and a spell landed on Bloody Rose's body. Bloody Rose's health bar was instantly emptied. Wuji smiled and threw a healing spell over, saving Bloody Rose's life at the crucial moment. Yes, sect leader Wuji is right. Bloody Rose pointed at Southern King Fu-Ti and said, "Hack him to death." When the Blood Alliance members heard this, they immediately surrounded them. First, they killed the Blood Rose, then they went to kill the Southern Hell Buddha. The inn was in chaos. Outside the revival point, Mingjian Daoxue was giving out money to a bunch of level 10 players. "How was it, boss? My acting wasn't bad, right?" "Your acting was not bad, but your shouting was too exaggerated. You definitely haven't read an actor's training," Mingjian Daoxue said and gave that person a gold coin. After giving out the gold coins, the players all said to Mingjian Daoxue, "Boss, let's go back and read that book. If you have such jobs in the future, you must find us." Chapter 191. Blood Rose was a very soft-tempered person. She had been in Blood Alliance for quite some time and had never given the order to attack anyone. The first person she gave the order to attack was her former sister. Seeing this girl on the verge of breaking down, Wuji took out a handkerchief and passed it over. If she wanted to cry, then cry. Anyways, with her temper, she would cause trouble sooner or later. Wuji was right. Because of a piece of lousy equipment, Blood Rose even dared to offend the head of Chuanjin. In the future, she might offend some big shot. "Thank you." Blood Rose took the handkerchief and thanked Wuji. Wuji shamelessly said, "You are welcome." This was a true bad guy. After doing bad things, others had to thank him. Little kids shouldn't learn from him. Southern Floating Buddha was a famous expert and one of the few level 20 job advancers. He was also a super player who was stacked with money. His equipment and mechanics were not below famous Sword Daoxue. People said that money was the true game breaker. There was no strongest class, only the strongest money. Southern Floating Buddha was a cleric with low combat strength, but he was actually able to hold back 4 Blood Alliance experts. Moreover, with all sorts of recovery methods, he was even able to gain the upper hand. The Blood Alliance members were getting more and more shocked, as expected from a money expert. However, no matter how strong Southern Floating Buddha was, he couldn't beat Blood Alliance in numbers. As the Blood Alliance players received the news and came to the tavern, Southern Floating Buddha couldn't hold on anymore, and his health started to drop. Southern Jam Fody retreated hurriedly. After casting a barrier of light to block everyone's path, he took out a scroll. Random scroll? The Blood Alliance players didn't know what it was, but Wuji knew what it was. This scroll was a rare item that could teleport players randomly. Just as Nanyan Fudi was about to tear open the scroll, a figure suddenly appeared behind him. That person grabbed his dagger and slashed it across Nanyan Fudi's throat. Nanyan Fudi, who already had very little health left in the first place, was stabbed into white light. Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell had just killed quite a few people, so he still had a lot of PK points on him. Now that he was dead, his PK points exploded. Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell was a pay-to-win player. Even the average boss couldn't compare to him in terms of wealth. With this one drop, the ground was littered with sparkling top-grade items. Green, blue, and even yellow. The people of Blood Alliance instantly went crazy, picking up all the items that Floating Southern King dropped. Chuanjin Guild Channel. Bai Mingyu said excitedly, Mother asterisk her, I finally got my revenge. F asterisk King Pure Land of Bliss. Wuji said, revenge is a matter of time. Where's the equipment? It's on him. It didn't explode. Bai Mingyu said. Execute Plan B. Brother Chun, it's your turn. Wuji shouted in the channel. Chun Xiang replied, got it. Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell was quite depressed. He had just come to Yu Hui Chung to buy equipment, but for no reason, he was killed by Blood Alliance. Mother asterisk her, was this some kind of scam? Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell was an arrogant person. Didn't he spend so much money on equipment to show off? Now that he was killed for no reason, he naturally couldn't take it lying down. So he immediately sent a message in the guild channel, I was killed by Blood Alliance in Yu Hui Chung. What? Blood Red War Flag is so bold? The boss of Pure Land of Bliss, One Flower, One World, asked in disbelief. In the early stages of the guild's development, they wouldn't help others in battle. In the game, it was an unspoken rule. Although Blood Red War Flag was a bit dumb, they weren't people who didn't follow the rules. It's 2 girls from Blood Red War Flag. They played scam with me. Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell said, D asterisk scam. You didn't lose anything else, right? One Flower, One World asked. During the battle, they used Smuff accounts to feed me. I had too many PK points, and my equipment was about to drop. Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell said gloomily. Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell's equipment was the best in the entire server, and this didn't include the many special items in his bag. All in all, Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell's losses from dying was an astronomical figure. Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell was a tycoon, and he spent money generously, so he was very popular in Pure Land of Bliss. He was also one of the core members, and the boss of Pure Land of Bliss, One Flower, One World, was friends with Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell in real life. Bullying Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell was equivalent to slapping Pure Land of Bliss in the face. Now, that Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell's equipment was dropped. How could the people of Pure Land of Bliss take it? One Flower, One World said coldly, since Blood Alliance doesn't care, then we can't be nice to them either. Brothers, follow me to Yu Hui Chung, and we'll kill that bunch of trash from Blood Alliance. Then what do I do now? Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell asked. I'm in Yu Hui Chung. I'll go pick you up now. Okay, I'll wait for you. Chun Xiang and the others stood guard at the entrance of the church. After waiting for a long time, they still didn't see Floating Buddha of the Southern Hell. At this moment, a group of people swaggered into the church. It's so what I hear. There was a saying that when enemies met, their eyes would turn red. When Fish North Sea saw, so what I hear's group, he wanted to charge forward. Mingdu pressed down on Fish North Sea's shoulder and said, Old Fish, young people shouldn't be too rash. Wait until they're far away from the revival point before you attack, okay? That's so what I hear will let you kill him. Really? Fish North Sea asked excitedly. Fish North Sea had been in the game for many years, but this was the first time he had been bullied to such an extent. Therefore, he wanted to kill his enemy even in his dreams. However, so what I hear was an expert, and he always brought dozens of people with him. So Fish North Sea never had the chance. Now that he heard Mingdu say this, he couldn't help but get excited. Just wait and see. Mingdu smiled and continued to ambush. You guys are finally here. You didn't encounter any enemies on the way, did you? Seeing his people, Southern King Fudi asked. The arrival of Rushi Wuan made Southern Yamfudi feel a little more at ease. This group of people were all elites of the Pure Land of Bliss. Blood Alliance wouldn't be able to defeat them just by relying on their numbers. No, it's pretty quiet. So what I hear said. That's strange. Southern King Fudi muttered in confusion. So what I hear said, there's nothing strange about it. Blood Alliance is very cowardly. I heard that they were bullied by a small guild with less than 10 people. In my opinion, Blood Red War Flag will be finished sooner or later. It's normal for their people to be afraid of us. Let's hope so. Southern King Fudi said plainly. Let's go. We'll find a place to wait for boss. Okay, let's go to our office. It's safe there. In Rebirth, the office was very magical. Don't underestimate the thin layer of door that couldn't be broken open even with forbidden spells. Therefore, being in the office was safer than being at the revival point. Outside the church, the Chuanjin people saw the people from Pure Land of Bliss and said happily, They're here, they're here. Everyone get ready. Chapter 192. Where are you guys? Are you guys fighting? Can you bring me along? Wang Yu saw all kinds of notifications in the chat and knew that these guys were piking with others. He felt an itch in his heart. As a martial artist, it was in their genes to fight. Mingdu hurriedly said, Wuji's equipment is already in our hands. We're drinking now. We're not fighting. Go to your thing. Why don't you let old cow come? Isn't he very strong? Bai Ming Yu didn't understand Mingdu's plan. Bai Ming Yu had been chased by Gokura Kajodo for a long time and knew how strong they were. Although Chuanjin's group was insanely strong, Bai Ming Yu still felt that it would be safer with Wang Yu around. It seemed like this guy had been traumatized by Gokuraku Jodo's pursuit. Nonsense, Iron Ox is so strong. We're just decorations when he comes, but... Bai Ming Yu hesitated. But what? Do you still want to kill your enemy? Yes. Then shut up. Don't miss a word, got it? Got it. Bai Ming Yu nodded, not really understanding. At this time, Soaring Spring suddenly shouted, They've entered the ambush. Activate. As he spoke, he raised his spring soaring staff, and a distortion spell froze the entire Pure Land of Bliss team. Radiant followed closely behind him, and Hellfire and Fire Arrow Sky Assault engulfed everyone from above and below. A white light rose on the spot. There were very few professions in the game that could resist 2 spells from Mingdu. If there was one, it would be a tank. Rumor has it that this team was specifically targeting the thief profession. There were more than 10 of them, but there were 4 tanks. Seeing that Mingdo's attack didn't kill all of them, Jiao, Ming Jian, Dao Xue, and Bao San charged into the encirclement while stepping on flames. Each of them took care of one of the 3 who were struggling at death's door. Just as Rushi Wuwen was about to turn around, In Lao Air used a shield bash on the back of Rushi Wuwen's head, then said to Bai Ming Yu, stab him to death. Even though Bai Ming Yu's rank was low, she was still a rare expert. She held her dagger and rushed over, slashing Rushi Wuwen's neck. In the guild channel, Wang Yu shouted again, You bunch of trash, I'm in the alley next to Central Street. I heard you guys killing people. I'm coming to find you right now. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. We got the equipment. Let's retreat quickly. In a flash, the 7 of them disappeared without a trace. In the resurrection point, the people from the Pure Land of Bliss were dumbfounded. They were all battle-hardened experts, yet they were annihilated in less than a single round. They didn't even get to see the person's shadow. This was something that had never happened before. What made the Gokura Kyoto members even more disgusted was that the leader of the Chuanjin team was Chun Xiang, who could hide his identity. The Gokura Kyoto members didn't even record who killed him in the battle log. Go outside the resurrection point. They must still be on the street. Southern Buddha, whose clothes had been destroyed, shouted in the channel. He casually put on a piece of equipment and ran out of the church. All the resurrection points of the classes were on this street. Very soon, the people from the Gokura Kyoto had left the resurrection point. At this time, everyone was taking advantage of the activity time to level up and farm yin beasts, so there weren't many people on this street. The people from the Gokura Kyoto checked the people on the street one by one. They were all low-level smurfs and didn't have the ability to kill them instantly. There was only one suspicious person, a big grandmaster of combat, who was looking around as if he was looking for someone. This person, Rushiwa One, and the others knew him. He was the #1 expert called Iron Ox, who had killed Zhu Fa Kong Xiang in an instant. Hey, who's that? I'm talking to you. Did you see a group of people killing people here just now? Southern Buddha had surrounded Wang Yu in the desolate city, but Wang Yu was wearing a mask at that time, so Southern Buddha didn't recognize him at all. Rushiwa hurriedly advised, F***, old Nan, don't cause trouble. Interrogating people on the street was extremely disrespectful. The others were angry at the Gokura Kyoto, but they didn't dare to say anything about Wang Yu. What's wrong? Do you know him? Southern Buddha pointed at Wang Yu's nose as he asked. No, I don't know him, ask away. Rushiwa One and the others hurriedly lowered their heads. Were they going to say that they were scared away by Wang Yu? I'm asking you. Who's that? Say something. Wang Yu is stunned. I'm also looking for them. Who are you guys? I'm Southern Buddha from the Gokura Kyoto. Tell me if you have any news about them. I'll help you kill them, Southern Buddha said generously. At this time, Wang Yu asked in the channel, Southern Buddha, do you guys know him? He seems to be looking for you guys. Everyone replied, I don't know him, I don't know him. He definitely isn't looking for us. We're at the tavern. Come and have a drink or two. Did I make a mistake? Wang Yu tilted his head in confusion. Then he glanced at Southern Buddha as if he was looking at an idiot before turning around and leaving. Seeing that Wang Yu had left without a word, Southern Buddha was extremely displeased. Damn it, Yu Huiqing's character is too bad. If I hadn't been killed and lost all my equipment, I would have taught him a lesson. You're amazing, you're amazing. Rushiwa wiped the sweat off his forehead as he thought to himself, thank goodness you don't have any equipment. Otherwise, who knows who would be the one teaching who a lesson. Wang Yu arrived at the tavern. Sure enough, the people of Chuanjin were sitting around a large table, drinking wine. In the middle of the group of men, there was a woman who was sobbing. While comforting the woman, Wuji didn't forget to say, all right, it's not a big deal. Friends who can sow discord aren't friends. Look at these bastards of Chuanjin. Even though they're ugly and have low morals, they won't betray me. Cough, cough. The people of Chuanjin coughed one after another. Chun Xiang even said in the channel, it seems like this was planned by a certain someone. Should I betray a certain someone? Wuji hurriedly said, Brother Chun, the next time you come to the capital, I'll treat you to a spa. You can pick any girl from the 56 tribes. Good brother, you're loyal. Chun Xiang said with a serious expression. F***, we want one too. Everyone started to get dissatisfied. Wuji said, we have all of you. The 56 tribes agreement is the most formal agreement in Chuanjin. What agreement? Wang Yu didn't understand what spa meant. After entering the room, he saw the foul atmosphere in the channel, so he asked casually, Iron Ox is here. When everyone saw Wang Yu, they hurriedly moved to make room for Wang Yu. To place one's pride, who was sensible, even poured a glass of wine for Wang Yu. What's wrong with Rose? Wang Yu saw Blood Rose, who was crying like a cat, and asked with a frown. Wuji said, Sister betrayed us and ran away with someone. She's not happy. Don't ask. Oh, Blood Rose? Wuji said. Blood Rose? Wang Yu was ignorant, but he wasn't stupid. Blood Rose had just offended Wuji for less than an hour, and then she betrayed him. Why did he feel that this was so strange? Chapter 193. Yup, yes. Just now, Rose saw it with her own eyes. Wu Ji said. Really? Wang Yu asked Bloody Rose suspiciously. Yup, when I came in, she was talking to Buddha of Southern Paradise. Bloody Rose told the story, feeling wronged. Buddha of Southern Paradise? Isn't that? Before Wang Yu could finish, Bao San suddenly stood up. Nyoga, didn't you say you were going to forge equipment for me? Yup. Are you free now? Yeah, I'm bored, Bao San said. Let's go back to the guild base. I'll forge you a good set, Wang Yu said proudly. In reality, he hadn't forged any equipment yet. Bao San pulled Wang Yu out of the door. Wu Ji was so touched that tears streamed down his face. Blood brothers, this is what blood brothers are. What about us? Everyone's faces were unfriendly. You guys are closer than brothers. Wu Ji said, so shouldn't you guys leave? Are we still going to kill the people from Buddha of Northern Paradise? Wu Ji said, the matter has been stirred up and the equipment has been taken. Let's go and do our own things. Mingdu curled his lips. Fine, you only care about the opposite sex. We're not going to play with you anymore. Let's go, brothers. They'll definitely drop equipment when they fight. We'll take this chance to get rich. Take me, everyone responded and followed Mingdu out of the tavern. Why are they leaving? Did I say something wrong? Bloody Rose asked, puzzled, as she watched everyone leave. No, they're just like that, looking down on everyone. Of course, they respect me a lot, Wu Ji said shamelessly. At the same time, at Yu Huiqing's port, groups of well-equipped players disembarked from the airship. Looking at the badges on their chests, Yu Huiqing's people weren't unfamiliar with them. They knew that this guild was called Pure Land of Bliss and that it was a large guild. Recently, Yu Huiqing had been quite active. Were the people from Blood Alliance? These people got off the airship and started to question the nearby players. Their tone was extremely unfriendly. He's catching fish in the Sunset Lake, a player said with slight dissatisfaction. Catch fish? The people from the Pure Land of Pure Land were confused. Catching fish in the lake? Blood Alliance seemed to be in a good mood. Where's Sunset Lake? Just walk straight out the city gate, the player replied. After getting the location of the Blood Alliance, they quickly gathered and headed towards the Sunset Lake. Blood Alliance really want to catch fish? No, I was lying to them. Let them act cool, the player said disdainfully. You even dare to deceive people from the Pure Land of Bliss. Brother, you're really brave. What's your name? How about we add each other as friends? Rolling Mario. The army from the Pure Land of Pure Land had already arrived. The people from Blood Alliance still didn't know what was going on. Their boss, Blood Red War Flag, was still studying the walkthrough at Chuanjin's team. Iadam, what skill is this? Iadam, what kind of playstyle is this? After studying it for a long time, Blood Red War Flag didn't find anything useful. However, their level of vulgarities had improved quite a bit. It wasn't that Blood Red War Flag wasn't skilled, but that Xuanjin's players were too wild. This playstyle wasn't something normal people could imitate. Boss, not good. I was at the port and saw people from the Pure Land of Pure Land. They were furious and seemed to want to cause trouble for us. Blood Red Knight messaged Blood Red War Flag. Did you look closely? Are they really from the Pure Land of Pure Land? Blood Red Knight said. It's true. I even saw a flower in a world. Damn, a flower in a world. Is that idiot crazy? Blood Red War Flag said angrily. Blood Red Knight said, it seems like it was our people who attacked first. I heard that in the tavern. Our people killed one of the experts from the Pure Land of Pure Land and dropped a lot of exquisite items. They were even bragging about it in the guild channel. Uff. Blood Red War Flag spat out a mouthful of blood and asked, a lot of exquisite items? Who? Is it Southern King Fu Ti? Yes, it's him, Blood Red said. I think he was poaching people from the Rose Legion and was bumped into by Rose. Rose? She's very friendly. I think he was poaching Blood Red Rose. Blood Red said. Blood Red War Flag was completely helpless. Blood Red Rose was Blood Rose's confidant. Wasn't poaching them the same as killing them? Boss, what do we do? Do you want us to hand over the killers? Blood Red War Flag said, hand over my ass. We're at Yu Huiqing's home ground. Do you think we're afraid of the Pure Land of Pure Land? I've been wanting to find trouble with them for a long time now that they're causing trouble in Yuhuicheng. Tell our brothers not to be afraid and just do it. It's still the early stage of the game. Even if they come looking for us, we can't be afraid. Otherwise, our brothers will be disappointed. We've suffered enough in Yuhuicheng. Blood-red war flag gritted their teeth in hatred when they thought of the bastards from Chuanjin. Okay, Blood-red Knight replied and went to make the arrangements. Apart from Wuji, the instigators of all this, the rest of the people from Chuanjin had already found their positions and were trying to take advantage of the situation. As for Bao San, he followed Wang Yu to the guild base. In the forging room, Molly was still tirelessly grinding her proficiency. Seeing Wang Yu and Bao San come in, Molly immediately put down what she was doing and greeted them. Third brother, why are you here? Did you come to see me? Wang Yu, who was ignored, was speechless. Didn't we get a set of blueprints from Yin a few days ago? I'm here to forge equipment. Bao San was also not used to Ma Li's enthusiasm. Third brother, I can forge for you. My forging skill is already at the intermediate level, Molly said enthusiastically. Bao San turned to look at Wang Yu and said, Actually, I've already asked Nyoga for help. Oh, Mr. Landlord, you're here too. Molly finally noticed Wang Yu. Wang Yu was speechless again. Oh, Bao San asked me for help a long time ago, Wang Yu said. That's a pity. I wanted to forge a set of equipment for you personally. Molly said regretfully. There will be a chance. Bao San blushed. Wang Yu laughed and said, Let's sew a set. Make a set? Why? It's the thread in a loving mother's hand, but the clothes on a wandering son's body. It's not sincere at all. F***CK. The two of them heard Wang Yu's mockery and immediately gave her a big middle finger. Molly said, By the way, Mr. Landlord, I've never seen you forge equipment before. Can you do it? TCH. Wang Yu showed them his forging skill and said, See, do you think I can do it? Hee. Molly suddenly laughed and said to Wang Yu, Mr. Landlord, you're not a life skill player. You won't understand that it's not enough to forge equipment with just skills. Chapter 194. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. What's wrong with having skills? Wang Yu was confused by Ma Li's words. Literature building, that's right. Ma Li explained, life professions are the same as combat professions. Although they both have the support of the system, the proficiency of skills will be different for experts and novices. Ma Li explained to Wang Yu, and Wang Yu finally understood. For example, forging an iron sword required 4 steps: melting the iron, fitting the mold, hammering, and assembling. The system would determine the quality of the equipment based on the temperature of the melting iron, the uniformity of the mold, the strength of the hammering, and the compatibility of the assembly. The higher the degree of completion, the easier it was to forge an excellent item, and the more experience one would gain. The more equipment one forged, the higher the proficiency, and the higher the chance of forging an excellent item. The level of one's forging skill also had a slight impact on whether the equipment was excellent or not. However, this was just like the Kung Fu masters in wuxia novels. Duan Yu and Xu Zhu were amazing, but if they were to fight, they might not be able to defeat Xiao Feng. Hence, for the same smithing art, Ma Li, who relied on accumulating experience, was definitely more reliable than Wang Yu, who relied on external forces to forcefully improve. Of course, this kind of thing was the same as killing monsters to level up. The key was still talent. People with forging talent would always be stronger than those without. After listening to Ma Li's explanation, Bao San felt a chill in his heart. Equipment set blueprints were different from the ordinary blueprints sold in shops. After learning the blueprints sold in shops, they could be used permanently. Equipment set blueprints were rare and had a limited number of uses. For example, Bao San's blueprints could only be used 3 times. If the forger was not reliable, the blueprints would be useless. Then you do it. Wang Yu said to Ma Li with lingering fear. This set of blueprints was treated like a treasure by Bao San. Wang Yu did not dare to mess around with him with his inexperienced skills. Sure, Molly smiled happily and said to Bao San, Brother San, give me the blueprints. I'll forge it for you. This. Bao San didn't even trust Wang Yu, much less Molly. Molly said, Don't worry, third brother. I'm very talented. There aren't many intermediate blacksmiths in the entire game, and I'm one of them. All right. Bao San didn't want to reject the girl's enthusiasm, so he took out the blueprint and passed it to Molly. Molly took the blueprint and clicked to learn it. However, her face immediately darkened. No, this is a rare recipe. It requires advanced forging technique, Molly said with a bitter expression. Advanced forging art? Bao San nearly vomited blood. Even a large guild's blacksmith would need at least a month or two to master the advanced forging technique. By that time, this set of equipment would most likely be outdated. Literature tower. I can't learn it? Hearing this, Wang Yu also picked up the blueprint and tried it. With a swoosh, the blueprint turned into a white light and disappeared. I can learn, Wang Yu exclaimed excitedly. Nyoga, you learn it? Bao San and the others exclaimed. Wang Yu was stunned and asked awkwardly, Is there something wrong with it? Anyway, you can't learn it. No. Bao San quickly said, AI, since Nyoga can learn it, then Nyoga can help me forge it. Bao San was also trying his best. Anyway, if no one could learn it, this set of blueprints would be useless. It was better to let Wang Yu try it. What if he could forge something good? After all, the most painful thing in life was having exquisite equipment in front of you, but not being able to get it, right? Okay. Wang Yu nodded and said, But let me say this first. Don't blame me if there's no exquisite equipment. Bao San said, Don't worry, I'm not that kind of person. I can still afford some materials. Then let's begin. As Wang Yu spoke, he walked to the forging table and clicked on the refinement column in the skill column. Under the branch of refinement, there were 3 options. Rare equipment forging, Mesher's Wrath, weapon, 0 of 3 Mesher's Faith, armor, 0 of 3 Mesher's Spirit, bracer, 0/3 after selecting Mesher's Wrath. A series of forging interfaces appeared in front of Wang Yu's eyes. The first row was molten iron, fine iron *5, wine copper *5 sorcerers, stone *1 bow. San placed all the materials on the operating table. Wang Yu chose 5 pieces of fine iron and threw them into the smelting furnace at the side. Then he followed the system's instructions and blew the bellows. There was a temperature pointer in Wang Yu's skill column, and it quickly pointed to the green area. According to the system's instructions, this was the most suitable temperature, so Wang Yu stopped blowing the bellows. At this time, the data on the operating table showed molten iron temperature 100%. Not bad, Mr. Landlord, Molly said in surprise. Molten iron temperature is not easy to control. Until now, I can't even guarantee that the temperature is above 95%. Mr. Landlord actually reached 100% in one try. Is he lucky? What lucky? Isn't there a temperature pointer from the system? Wang Yu asked curiously. Temperature pointer? What's that? Molly was even more puzzled. Seeing Ma Li's expression, Wang Yu instantly understood that this should be the difference in saving energy. He smiled and said, Your forging skill is too low. It doesn't have this function. Molly said angrily, You're definitely not the Mr. Landlord I know. He's not that annoying. Wang Yu laughed and pulled the smelting furnace. The molten iron was poured into the mold below the smelting furnace. You're finished. Seeing Wang Yu pull the smelting furnace like that, Molly was dumbfounded. The most important thing in mold closing was uniformity, so when pouring molten iron into the mold, the more uniform the better. It would be strange if Wang Yu's method was so simple and crude. As expected, the data on the operating table showed mold closing uniformity, 56%. Wang Yu opened the mold with a red face. He used pliers to pick out a very strange thing. It was crooked and ugly like a golden snake sword. Seeing this thing, Bao San's head hit the ground. Originally, Bao San still had a glimmer of hope, but now it seemed like his last hope was gone. No matter how bad others were at forging equipment, it was still a sword, right? Wang Yu made it special when forging equipment. What the F***CK was this? He said that it was a wooden mallet, but it didn't look like a wooden mallet. Although Bao San had no hope in Wang Yu. Once the forging started, he couldn't force it to stop. Otherwise, the materials would be deducted. Therefore, Wang Yu could only bite the bullet and continue forging. Molly said to Wang Yu, "Mr. Landlord, hammering is the most difficult step in forging. Don't mess around." "Got it." Wang Yu nodded and responded. He opened the third forging option, hammering. Chapter 195. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Wang Yu placed the forged longsword mold on the workbench and opened the forging interface. A small hammer icon appeared in the skill pane with the words Hammer X18 next to it. This meant that he could hammer 18 times to successfully forge the sword. At the same time, 18 small green circles appeared on the mold that Wang Yu forged, representing the places that needed to be hammered. These small circles were similar to the temperature indicator from before. They were unique to refinement. Normal forging didn't have this indication. Clang! Wang Yu picked up the hammer and lightly tapped the blade. The blade turned white, representing sharpness. System notification, slight strength. Forging progress, 72%. Wang Yu was a martial arts expert. He had precise control over his strength, comparable to the most precise instrument. With the first strength as a reference, Wang Yu slightly increased his strength. Clang! The blade turned white. System notification, uniform strength. Forging progress, 100%. Ma Li, who had been paying attention to the changes in the data on the workbench, was not surprised when Wang Yu first tapped it. After all, he was a new blacksmith. It was already very impressive for him to be able to do this. However, Wang Yu's forging progress shocked Ma Li more and more, 100%, 100%. 17 consecutive 100% hits. The final forging progress was 97%. Ma Li's mouth formed an O shape. Normal players faced two problems when forging equipment. One was the hammering position, and the other was the hammering strength. Literature building. As players forged more equipment, they would naturally be able to determine the position of the hammer. However, the strength of the hammer was a more ambiguous thing. After all, strength was something that was very difficult to control. The system was afraid that there would be too many top-tier items, so it would not provide players with assistance to correct it. The longsword could be hammered 18 times. Ma Li's mastery of each strike was only around 80%. When forging equipment, Ma Li would thank the heavens if she could get 200% hits. It was said that the top guild in the national server, the Nine States Empire, had hired a professional blacksmith as a blacksmith in real life. That blacksmith was known as the #1 blacksmith in Rebirth. Every time he hammered, he could only control it to be around 95%. Wang Yu's string of 100% was something that no one would believe. Could it be that the charterer had better forging skills than a professional blacksmith? Marie couldn't help but think. As the saying goes, different professions are worlds apart. Even if Wang Yu was very talented, his forging skills wouldn't be higher than a professional blacksmith's. However, this was in the game. With the help of the system, all the data could be visualized, and Wang Yu could adjust the strength and forging method according to the numbers. If it was in the real world, there would be a lot of limitations. Wang Yu was absolutely clueless about the most basic smithing techniques and positions. I'm also clueless, so don't listen to me bragging. After tempering, the next step was assembly. The gauntlet, hilt, and lock ring were all small parts. Currently, they were only sold in the shop, and the equipment blueprints didn't have these things. With the help of the refinement system, Wang Yu calibrated the positions and equipped the 3 parts one by one. The data on the console showed assembly compatibility 100%. A longsword was finally completed. Picking up this strange longsword, Wang Yu displayed its attributes. Mayhill's Wrath, equipment set, attack, 25-27 mana, 25 to 2,715 strength, 15 vitality. Mayhill's Wrath set, 1/3 Mayhill's Wrath, weapon, 1-1 Mayhill's Faith, armor, 0-1 Mayhill's Spirit, bracer, 0-1 set, attributes Wrath, Effect of whirlwind slash increased by 15%. Activated faith. Physical and magic resistance increased by 20%. Spirit. When HP drops below 50%, attack increased by 20%. The attributes were not bad, but the main attributes were too trashy. What was even more unacceptable was that this weapon was very ugly. Wang Yu had specially made a big gauntlet that looked like a fork according to his own preferences. It looked so ugly that even if Wang Yu had the face to give it to Bao San wouldn't have the face to take it out. Wouldn't he be making the enemy laugh to death? Nyoga this. Bao San's face was bitter, and his disdain was obvious. Wang Yu didn't mind. He casually stuffed the sword into his bag and said to Bao San, all right, I didn't do a good job just now. I'll do it again for you. Do you have enough materials? When Bao San heard this, he was overjoyed. Yes. In order to prevent any accidents, Bao San had prepared well. Hearing that Wang Yu was willing to do it again, Bao San was very happy. Okay. Wang Yu responded and opened the furnace again. Uniformity was the easiest thing to master in the forging process. This time, Wang Yu carefully poured the molten iron into the mold, and the uniformity was 100% perfect. Next was the tempering. Recalling the strength just now, Wang Yu struck the blade intermittently 18 times. Just like before, the completion rate was 100%, but the final tempering rate was 99%. After the weapon was completed, other than the main attributes being greatly increased, the other attributes were exactly the same as before. After receiving the new weapon from Wang Yu, Bao San was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. On the other hand, Molly was completely convinced by Wang Yu. No matter how much the refinement art was assisted by the system, the 18 times of 100% completion rate were genuine and could not be faked at all. Based on that alone, Molly believed that she could never surpass Wang Yu in this life. Nyoga, you're really my brother. How do you think I should thank you? Bao San said excitedly. Let me forge it again. Bao San was just being polite, but Wang Yu took it seriously. Forge it again? Bao San asked in surprise. Why? This weapon is already perfect. The attributes of the forged weapon were better than the attributes of the equipment dropped by the boss. The two main attributes of the second weapon that Wang Yu forged were enough to surpass the best gold-grade equipment at the current stage. As a person who had trouble with equipment in Xuanzhen, Bao San was already very satisfied with this weapon. No, when I forged it, the tempering rate was only 99%, so there's still room for improvement. In a duel between martial artists, the slightest flaw could cause one's reputation to fall to the ground or even lose one's life. Wang Yu had been practicing martial arts since he was young, so he had developed the habit of pursuing perfection. The 99% tempering rate made Wang Yu feel a little unhappy. Bao San was a little troubled. I see. Why? Is there a problem? Wang Yu asked. Is there not enough materials? Bao San nodded. Yes, there are 6-star ores in total, and I've used them all. Creating advanced equipment required mana stones, and the point star, or was the mana stone used to create weapons. Every time Wang Yu created a weapon, she would use up 3-point star ores. Bao San only had 6-point star ores, and they had all been used up just now. If that's the case, Wang Yu took out 3 red crystals from her bag and said, will these work? Chapter 196. This is... Bao San's eyes widened as he looked at the red crystal in Wang Yu's hand. To see, literature building book. Wang Yu displayed the attributes. Fire Dragon Scale, rare material, can be used to forge equipment. Great, that's great, Bao San exclaimed. No matter how rare a point star was, it was just an ordinary magical ore. On the other hand, the thing in Wang Yu's hand was a dragon scale. Since ancient times, whether it was swords, magic, or wuxia, as long as it was related to dragons, which one of them wasn't good. In gaming terms, the magical energy contained in the Fire Dragon Scale was much stronger than a point star Oregon. That's good. Wang Yu nodded. He skillfully opened the smelting furnace again and threw the materials and the 3 Fire Dragon Scales inside. Melting iron, fitting the mold. Wang Yu was already very familiar with the process, moving like clouds and flowing like water. Next up was tempering. Truth be told, Wang Yu had done his best in the tempering just now. The only flaw was that his movements weren't coherent enough. Tempering was all about doing it in one go. That was why Wang Yu realized that the tempering progress was 99, 100 after 18 hammerings, the data on the console showed. Tempering progress 100. Activated faith. After defense and magic resist are increased by 20, attack increases by 20. Required class. Warrior level requirement. 20 Dragon My Hills Faith Chainmail set. Defense. 80-100 defense. 80-100 plus 15 strength plus 15 vitality. Dragon My Hills Wrath set 1/3 D. Dragon My Hills Wrath. Weapon. 0-1 Dragon My Hills Faith. Armor. 1-1 Dragon My Hills Spirit. Bracer. 0-1 set. Attributes Wrath. Whirlwind effect extended by 15. Activated. Spirit. HP reduced to 50. Special attribute. Requires 3 pieces to activate. Dragon Flame. Normal attacks carry Dragon Flame damage. Dragon's Aura. Exerts pressure on lower level targets, reducing their stats. Every higher level reduces the target's stats by 1. Faith. After defense and magic resist are increased by 20. Attack increases by 20. Required class. Warrior level requirement. 20. Not only did these 3 pieces of equipment have astonishing attributes, but they also looked extremely impressive. The body of a long sword was like a ball of fire surrounding it. On the golden chainmail, there was a roaring fire dragon. The red light on the wrist guard resonated with the other 2 pieces of equipment. It looked very flashy. This is really too powerful, Bao San exclaimed. Currently, the strongest piece of equipment Bao San had ever seen on the market was the epic crossbow in Yang Na's hands. However, that was a reward from a class quest, so he couldn't compare. There is also Mingdu's dark gold equipment, the profound magic orb. Individually, Bao San's 3 pieces of equipment were slightly inferior to the profound magic orb. However, Bao San's set equipment was a set equipment with additional attributes. Even dark gold equipment couldn't compare to Bao San's set equipment. Wang Yu exchanged the second sword that she had just forged for a large gauntlet and placed it in her bag. As for the rest of the equipment, Wang Yu gave it to Bao San. I'll be using that sword. Consider my wages and dragon scale money. You have no objections, right? Wang Yu asked Bao San. No, absolutely not. Bao San shook his head like a rattledrum. Only an idiot would object to such a good deal. You're not going to keep one set? Wang Yu smiled. You only have one set. What if I take it? You can deal with the other 2 sets yourself. Bao San nodded. Yes, give second bro 1 set. As for the other, Bao San turned to look at Molly. He took out 2 pieces of equipment and handed them to her. Third bro. Bao San's actions were too unexpected. Molly couldn't accept it. Bao San's face turned red. Take it. We don't have any other warriors in Xuanjin. Is that the only reason? Molly looked at Bao San in a daze. Bao San asked dumbly. Are there any other reasons? F***CK. Even Wang Yu couldn't bear to watch Bao San's idiotic question. Thinking about how Wu Ji played the girl, and then looking at Bao San, Wang Yu couldn't help but sigh. Why is there such a big difference between brothers? Chapter 197. Wang Yu and the others were still leisurely crafting equipment in the guild encampment while the entirety of Yu Huicheng was in chaos. Blood Alliance and Pure Land of Bliss were 2 of the top guilds in the Chinese server. Although at this stage of the game, a guild could at most accommodate 500 people, these 2 guilds had their own subsidiary guilds with thousands of permanent members. Don't look down on thousands of people. In the online game, a guild with thousands of people was already a huge circle. As for a guild with hundreds of thousands of people, either they had never played online games before or they didn't know about the situation. How many people did a military district in the People's Liberation Army have? When 2,000-man guilds fought, the scene was spectacular. Originally, Pure Land of Bliss wanted to launch a surprise attack on Blood Alliance, but because of their arrogance, the moment they arrived in Yu Huicheng, they were tricked by the smart Yu Huicheng players. Then, the Blood Alliance got wind of it and quickly gathered together. They caught the people from the Pure Land of Bliss off guard at the Sunset Lake. When Southern Buddha was in the tavern, he had easily insta-killed a few players who were pretending to be from Blood Alliance. Thus, Pure Land of Bliss' estimation of the quality of Blood Alliance's players was very biased. They thought that Blood Alliance's players were only SOSO and that they were suppressed by a small guild in a main city. How could they have any future? Thus, Pure Land of Bliss looked down on Blood Alliance's players. In the end, the fight didn't matter. Only then did Pure Land of Bliss realize that Blood Alliance's status as one of the top 10 guilds on the server wasn't just for show. There were many experts in the Pure Land of Bliss, such as Southern King Foodie, Dharma Emptiness, Wuchen, Wugo, and so on. They were all famous experts in their districts. Compared to the nameless blood-red war flag, they were much stronger. Even so, at Yu Huiqing's home ground, Pure Land of Bliss could only defend against Blood Alliance's attacks. D*MN. This isn't right, Southern Buddha. At Sunset Lake, One Flower One World felt that something wasn't right as he faced Blood Alliance's fierce attacks. Didn't you say that Blood Alliance's players were weak? Why are they so strong now? Could it be that you're too powerful? One Flower One World asked Southern Yinfu. They're indeed very weak. I'm just a priest, and yet I can insta-kill 4 of them. Furthermore, I heard that the Blood Alliance isn't that strong in Yu Huiqing. They were once oppressed by an 8-man guild twice. Southern Yinfu mentioned. One Flower One World said, I know that the Quanjin sect was indeed quite ruthless back in the desolate city, but do you think that the people from the Quanjin sect can really defeat the Blood Alliance? I'm not sure about that, Southern King Foodie muttered. Sigh. The situation was getting worse. One Flower One World suddenly felt a tinge of regret. At the same time, the more One Flower One World thought about it, the more confused he got. In the early stages of the game, it was an unspoken rule. Why would Blood Alliance pick a fight for no reason? That didn't make sense at all. Speaking of which, why were you surrounded by people from the Blood Alliance? One Flower One World continued to ask Southern Yinfu. Southern Yinfu rubbed the back of his head and said gloomily, I don't know either. It seems that the guild leader of Blood Alliance's subsidiary guild suspected that I was poaching people from Blood Alliance. Oh, when One Flower One World heard this, he was puzzled. Poaching people? Then what were you doing at that time? I was buying equipment. A player from Rosette Army got a top-grade priest gold equipment, so I came over to trade. Who knew that Blood Alliance would be so unreasonable? Southern Yinfu said in a wrong tone. Gold equipment? That's the highest level of acting cool nowadays. How could a normal player have it? That I'm not sure. Can you contact the seller? Can you ask where the equipment came from? One Flower One World asked. Okay, I'll try. Southern Yinfu opened his friend's list and contacted Bloodrose. The two chatted for a while. Southern Yinfu said to One Flower One World, she said that it was from the Hell Instance Dungeon. Hell Instance Dungeon? One Flower One World was stunned. The only ones who have the ability to clear Hell Instance dungeons are Chuanjin's group. Yes, they're the only ones who have succeeded so far. Speaking of which, they've only cleared the dungeon for less than 2 hours. How do you know that the girl has equipment? One Flower One World's thoughts started to become clearer. Air. Southern Yinfu said a little embarrassedly. A friend of mine told me. Your friend? What's his name? Which guild? One Flower One World asked. His name is Sordao Xue. I think he's from Chuanjin. Then when you were caught trading, was there anyone else around? Yes, Chuanjin's guild leader, Wuji, was with Rosette Army's guild leader. When I wanted to run, he even gave me a hit. Southern Yinfu said as he recalled the situation. F***CK. One Flower One World jumped up immediately. 2 guilds fighting for no reason, and the guild that appeared the most was Chuanjin. How could he not be suspicious? No one in the game who could lead thousands of players in a battle was an idiot. One Flower One World immediately felt that there was something fishy about this matter. After hearing South Jam Footy's answer, One Flower One World immediately came to the conclusion that the Quanjin sect was definitely behind this. It was just that he didn't know what the Quanjin sect's goal was. Could it be to weaken Blood Alliance and Pure Land of Bliss? The battles between guilds in the game basically followed this pattern and goal. However, the Quanjun sect only had a few people. Big guilds like Blood Alliance and Pure Land of Bliss. How much weaker could they be? No matter how strong Xuanjin's players were, they couldn't fight 1 against 10, right? Xuanjin definitely had another goal. No, I have to talk to Blood Red War Flag. Thinking up to here, One Flower One World was shocked. He hurriedly opened his friend's list and found Blood Red War Flag. Naturally, the guild leaders were in contact with each other. War Flag, you idiot. Do you really want to kill us all? One Flower One World sent a message over. Bullsh asterisk T, you guys started it. Not long after, Blood Red War Flag replied. What do you know? We've definitely been schemed against. Tell your people to stop attacking. Bullsh asterisk T, if I stop attacking, what if your people fight back? Who dares to scheme against us? Don't you know who I am? I'll tell my people to stop resisting. Okay, let's talk face to face. As he said this, One Flower One World gave the order to stop resisting. Blood Red War Flag saw One Flower One World's sincerity, so they also stopped their endless attacks. After the two sides stopped fighting, One Flower One World and Blood Red War Flag walked to the front of the formation. The two of them weren't at ease and gave orders to their subordinates. If that bastard moves, immediately kill him. The two leaders stood face to face. Blood Red War Flag replied, Speak, who is scheming against us? I suspect it's Xuanjin. One Flower One World said. Chapter 198. Xuanjin? It can't be. Blood Red War Flag was confused. Their actions are weird, but we don't offend them if they don't offend us. Our Blood Alliance didn't offend them, right? Blood Red War Flag was also afraid of the Quanjin sect. There was an unspoken rule within the Blood Alliance, which was to not provoke the Quanjin sect. Therefore, when it came to their attitude towards the Quanjin sect, the Blood Alliance was still very harmonious. One Flower One World said, when our Pure Land of Bliss was recruiting members in Afterglow City, we had some disagreements with a member of the Quanjin sect. It might be because of this. TSK. Blood Red War Flag said in disdain, then they should be targeting you directly. Why drag us into this? They probably don't have the strength to fight us, so they want to borrow a knife to kill us. One Flower One World said. Hee hee. Hearing One Flower One World's words, the higher-ups of Blood Alliance all laughed. The people from a Pure Land of Bliss were at most on par with the Blood Alliance. Did they really think that the reason why the Blood Alliance was suppressed by the Quanjin sect was because of the rule of harmony between guilds? What a joke. That was just a rule between big guilds. Wouldn't a small guild like this be easily wiped out? But this concerned Xuanjin. Whether or not they could be wiped out was another matter. After all, there was a guy in Xuanjin who was really difficult to deal with. Thinking about this, the people from Blood Alliance couldn't help but shiver. I think this is impossible. Blood Red War Flag said, Xuanjin is definitely not as simple as you think. One Flower One World laughed coldly. I think you were scared by Xuanjin. Hee hee, you can say whatever you want. Blood Red War Flag shrugged. You don't have evidence, so I don't believe you at all. If you want to fight, then fight. Stop talking nonsense. Blood Red War Flag was already impatient. He pulled out his spear and stabbed it into the ground. One Flower One World panicked. Wait, based on what I know, this matter is related to you. We have a witness. Witness? Blood Red War Flag asked, what witness? Blood rose. As One Flower, One World spoke, a woman walked out from behind the battlefield. Southern Yamfuti had already informed Blood Rose that if this was really Xuanjin's doing, the Blood Alliance and Pure Land of Bliss would seek justice for her. Rose, is that really the case? Blood Red War Flag asked as it looked at Blood Red Rose. It's like this. Bloody Rose recounted everything that happened in the dungeon and the tavern in detail. With Southern Floating Buddha around, Bloody Rose's words could basically be verified. However, she was a woman after all. At this time, she was filled with grievance and anger, so it was inevitable for her to add fuel to the fire. In Bloody Rose's description, everyone from the Quanjun sect became animals that everyone hated. As for her act of stealing equipment, she didn't mention a single word about it. After hearing Bloody Rose's words, the two guild masters fell into deep thought. From the beginning of the instance dungeon, he had pretended to be magnanimous and then bought Bloody Rose's heart. Then, he had secretly arranged this show for Bloody Rose to watch. In the end, he had provoked the two guilds to fight to the death. He had spent money, killed people, and lost equipment. Step by step, they followed closely behind, leading the two guilds to fall into their trap. After eating from the upper guild, they ate from the lower guild and toyed with the thousands of players from the two guilds in the palm of their hands. This Chuanjin sect really did have a capable person in it. What now? War flag boss, do you still want to stand by and watch? They're obviously targeting us. One Flower, One World said coldly. Then we won't provoke them. Blood Red War Flag said calmly. If Bloody Rose didn't say what she said, with the help of Pure Land of Bliss, Blood Red War Flag would really consider suppressing Chuanjin. After hearing Bloody Rose's words, Blood Red War Flag immediately made up their mind. No matter what, it was better not to provoke these guys. Damn, no matter how strong that Iron Ox was, he was just a martial artist. As long as they arranged things properly and had enough people, there would come a time when he would be at a disadvantage. However, this time, Blood Red War Flag knew that there was a mastermind in Chuanjin. This increased Blood Red War Flag's fear of Chuanjin. Damn, one who could fight was already unbearable, and now there was another who knew how to scheme. As the saying goes, fear not thieves, but fear thieves. It was impossible for Blood Red War Flag to not be afraid of such a group of dogskin plasters. Why are you so King scared? You're still a big guild. Are you scared to death by those guys? One Flower, One World scolded angrily. Blood Red War Flag wasn't angry at being looked down upon by One Flower, One World. Instead, he said in a serious tone, Hey, old flower, there are some things you don't know. I won't stop you if you want to deal with them. However, we've played together for so many games, and we have some friendship. There's something I have to tell you. The barefooted are never afraid of wearing shoes. CKU, you coward. One Flower, One World waved his hand and pushed Blood Red War Flag to the side. The people of Blood Red War Flag raised their weapons with a hua. The people of Pure Land of Bliss didn't back down either. They raised their weapons and fought back. Both sides were ready to fight again. Forget it. Someone will take care of them. Let's go back. Blood Red War Flag waved his hand at his subordinates. Only then did Blood Red War Flag withdraw their formation. They weren't close friends. Since One Flower, One World wanted to die, then Blood Red War Flag was happy to watch the show. One Flower, One World saw that Blood Alliance had retreated and didn't dare to fight them to the death. After all, this was a critical period. The main target of Pure Land of Bliss was still the people from Chuanjin. Offending such a strong enemy like Blood Alliance wouldn't bring them any benefits. If things got out of hand and Blood Alliance and Chuanjin joined hands, then wouldn't they be idiots? CK. A bunch of cowards. One Flower, One World looked at their backs and spat. He then shouted to his subordinates, Blood Alliance is all cowards. If they don't dare to do it, then let's do it. Today was New Year's Eve. Before Mu Zixian went offline, she told Wang Yu not to work too late and to remember to have a New Year's Eve dinner together. Wang Yu was an obedient person. After forging equipment for Bao San, he went offline early. When normal women went shopping, they would go shopping. When Mu Zixian went home, she would bring food back home. The moment Wang Yu went offline, he saw a pile of ingredients on the table in the living room. Mu Zixian was working on it. Wifey, how many dishes are we making? We can't even fit them in the kitchen and have to bring them to the living room? Wang Yu asked in shock. Idiot, it's New Year's Eve. Mu Zixian smiled. But we can't eat so much. Isn't it a waste? Wang Yu asked curiously. Although Wang Yu ate a lot, the two of them definitely couldn't finish all these dishes. Mu Zixian had always been frugal. How could it be just two people? Nana will come over later. Also, call Little Snow and the other three. Chapter 199. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Shua Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Yang Na, why did you send her here? Wang Yu pulled a long face when he heard that. Love, go small, say, Netka this girl was jumping up and down every day, and her figure could be seen everywhere. It was the new year. It was understandable that Li Shui and the others were working hard because their families were not good. But this girl was a young lady, and she did not go home during the new year. Instead, she came here to scrounge food. Who knew what she was up to? Mu Zixian cast a sidelong glance at Wang Yu and said doubtfully, "Hey, old Wang, I say, why are you so awkward? Did Nana provoke you? Why are you always making things difficult for her? It's the new year. You better be obedient later, or else I won't give you any food to eat." You don't know, Wang Yu was about to say something when the doorbell rang. "I'm picking vegetables. Go and open the door." Wang Yu pulled the door open with a dark expression, and Yang Na walked in with a smile. "What's wrong, brother Yu? Are you unhappy that I came to your house for a free meal?" Yang Na asked with a smile when she saw Wang Yu's expression. "Let's go. I can't chase you away anyway." When Mu Zixin heard that the two of them were going to quarrel again, she glared at Wang Yu and said, "Old Wang, what are you saying? Pour the dirty water away and wash the vegetables twice." Wang Yu lowered his head, with one hand carrying the bucket of dirty water and the other carrying the vegetables. He went to the kitchen. "Nana, don't mind him. Old Wang isn't like this usually." Mu Zixian said to Yang Na. Yang Na pursed her lips and said, "I know. He treats me like this." Mu Zixian was a sensitive woman. When she heard what Yang Na said, her heart skipped a beat. She couldn't help but ask, "Did you two know each other before?" "I don't know." Yang Na shook her head. "Then why do I always feel that you and him seem to have a natural grudge against each other, fighting whenever you see him?" Mu Zixian was puzzled. "This sigh." Yang Na sighed and said, "It's a long story. Let's not talk about it. It'll affect the mood during the new year." Mu Zixian was startled. "You really know martial arts?" Yang Na nodded. "Yang family?" "Yes." Yang Na nodded again. Mu Zixian's pupils constricted and her face turned pale. Her hand that was grabbing the vegetables started to tremble because she used too much strength. "His fiancée?" Mu Zixian mustered up a lot of courage to say the last three words. After all, her husband had a fiancée. Any woman would find it hard to accept that, let alone two people meeting. "I guess so, but not exactly," Yang Na said. "I should have known." Seeing Yang Na admit it, Mu Zixian's emotions did not become more agitated. Instead, she gradually calmed down. From the beginning, Wang Yu had told Mu Zixian that Yang Na might be a member of the Yang family, but Mu Zixian didn't believe it. In Mu Zixian's heart, people who practice martial arts were all very strong. No matter what, she would never associate a slender girl like Yang Na with the word martial arts. However, during today's dungeon run, Yang Na's performance had surprised so many experts. In addition, when Wang Yu introduced her, he also said that she knew martial arts. This made Mu Zixian slightly suspicious. However, when the two of them went shopping in the afternoon, Mu Zixian felt that Yang Na had a good upbringing. She wasn't arrogant at all. She didn't look like the person who came from a martial arts family that Wang Yu described. Therefore, Mu Zixian dispelled her only trace of suspicion. Who would have thought that Yang Na didn't have any intention of hiding it? She actually admitted it calmly. This was what surprised Mu Zixian the most. "Then what do you plan to do? Kill me?" Mu Zixian asked Yang Na. "How is that possible?" Yang Na looked at Mu Zixian speechlessly. "Sister Xian, we are in a lawful society. Killing is against the law. At most, I'll take him away. That's no different from killing me." Mu Zixian stared at Yang Na. She didn't show any weakness just because Yang Na was a martial arts practitioner. Yang Na sighed and said, "Sigh, I really don't understand you. I don't know what's so good about this trash. Other than knowing some martial arts, he doesn't know anything. Recently, he even picked up a bunch of bad habits. I really don't know what you see in him." "I don't know either." Mu Zixian shook her head. "Then why are you willing to die for him?" Yang Na asked, puzzled. Mu Zixian said, "You are still young. Of course, you don't understand. When two people love each other and want to get to the bottom of it, it proves that this relationship is over. In short, I am willing to do everything for him. Love each other. I don't see you two being that much in love." Yang Na laughed. Which couple in idol dramas wasn't passionate? Other than eating, drinking, and taking a dump together, these two were no different from normal friends. Mu Zixian smiled and said, "Marriage is like water. Love is like fire. A passionate love will eventually dissipate, but a marriage that is as calm as water is unbreakable. We have already survived the most difficult days. We are very happy now. I hope you can understand him." Mu Zixian could also see that Yang Na had no intention of fighting with her for her man. She was just curious about the current situation of the two. Yang Na said, "I understand. Sister Xian, you don't have to worry. Although our Yang family isn't as good as the Wang family, we still have this bit of dignity. The main reason I came here this time was to see what kind of person could make him be so rebellious. After seeing you, I understood. If I were him, I would be the same. Thank you." Yang Na's understanding touched Mu Zixian. "But don't be too happy too early. This matter, the Yang family and I can express our understanding, but I can't say for others." Yang Na said again. "Others? Someone from the Wang family?" Mu Zixian asked. Yang Na pointed at the prescription and said, No, it's someone from another family. This kid's background isn't as simple as you think, huh? How many fiancés does he have?" Mu Zixian was smart. She immediately figured out what was going on. 3. That's why I said you guessed wrong. Yang Na shook her head as though she did not want to mention the matter at all. Mu Zixian said in astonishment, "The country wants to develop martial arts, so martial artists have special reproductive rights? It's no wonder he's especially..." Upon saying that, Mu Zixian hurriedly shut her mouth with a blush. However, her thoughts went far. Martial artists were rarer than pandas. The country might want to increase the number of talents in this field, so they gave them special treatment. Martial artists were strong and would not die from exhaustion. Yang Na said with a dark expression, "What are you thinking about? What reproductive rights? We are also ordinary citizens. We abide by the monogamy system. Also, only livestock are considered reproductive. What humans do is called reproduction." While Yang Na was explaining to Mu Zixian, she also looked down on Mu Zixian for not treating martial arts practitioners as humans. "Then why does he have 3 fiancés?" Mu Zixian asked curiously. "It's all because of the rules of the circle and his father's unreliability," Yang Na said with resentment. Chapter 200. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Net, providing you with exciting novels to read. The Kung Fu Circle was actually very small. There were only so many people in the world. Moreover, the people in the Kung Fu Circle were very particular about inheritance. In order to ensure that their bloodline and qualifications were excellent, the people in the circle rarely talked about marriage with people outside the circle. This was especially true for the people from the 4 big families. In the Chinese Kung Fu Circle, the 4 big families were definitely the top. For the sake of bloodline and inheritance, they were even more selective in their marriages. These people were very biased and looked down on the small sections. Therefore, a few hundred years ago, they set a rule together that the marriages of the direct descendants of the 4 big families could only be found within the 4 big families. Wang Yu was an unprecedented genius and was also a direct descendant of the Wang family. Therefore, when Wang Yu started to show his talent in martial arts, the other 3 families were already rushing to send their daughters away. The son of a genius was definitely a genius. Even if he couldn't be a genius grandfather and father, it would still be great to be a genius grandfather and father-in-law. In addition, Wang Yu's father had the habit of showing off, so naturally, he often bragged, "Oh, my son is a genius. It's a wise move for you to marry into our family." Then, the 3 families naturally got old Wang's permission. Wang Yu was the face of the Wang family. From the moment he was born and started learning martial arts, he was raised like an animal. Everything about Wang Yu was arranged by his parents. Of course, marriage was no exception. Just when old Wang was about to drag Wang Yu to choose a breeding partner, he actually ran away. Old Wang was a person who cared a lot about his reputation. Old Wang, who had devoted his life to showing off, suddenly lost face in front of the other 3 family heads. That feeling was worse than killing him. Therefore, Old Wang flew into a rage and said that he would hunt down and kill Wang Yu. Everyone in the Wang family knew old Wang's temper. No matter what, Wang Yu was his biological son. After 3 days, his words were just like a fart. No one would be stupid enough to take it seriously. However, the other 3 families did not think this way. They had raised their daughters and sent them to your family, but you had actually gone missing. The 3 family heads had lost as much face as Lao Wang. The 2 families had been on good terms for generations, and Wang Yu's grandmother was also a member of the Yang family. Thus, they could endure this kind of thing. However, it was different for the other 2 families. They were large families with deep roots and had long been dissatisfied with Lao Wang's behavior of spreading his net everywhere. At that moment, this matter had happened, and they would definitely not swallow their anger. Then what should we do? After listening to Yang Na's explanation, Mu Zixian started to panic. Yang Na said, "Don't worry, no one here is a bad guy. There won't be any danger. At most, they will play some tricks to make that fool remember. It's definitely not as exaggerated as he thinks it is. He is just afraid of his father. Besides, the number of people in our circle who can beat him can be counted on one hand. Most of them are from his own family. Sai, why didn't you say so earlier? You almost scare me to death." Mu Zixian said as she rubbed her chest. "Love go small, say Nekoa. Wife, are you sick?" At that moment, Wang Yu walked out of the kitchen while wiping his hands. He pointed at Yang Na and said, "Is this your doing?" Mu Zixian pushed Wang Yu's hand away and said, "That's enough. Stop bullying Na. After all, the 2 of you are relatives. The 4 major families have been intermarried for 100 years. They were more or less related to each other." "Ah, how did you know?" Wang Yu looked at Mu Zixian in surprise. "I already said it." Yang Na spread her hands. Wang Yu stared at Yang Na with a murderous look and said angrily, "What nonsense are you talking about?" Yang Na said lightly, "I'm talking about the trivial matters of your family. I'm only mentioning these things to make Sister Xian feel at ease. It will save you the trouble of throwing a tantrum whenever you see me. Don't you find it annoying? Do you really dare to kill me?" Wang Yu really did not dare to kill. No matter how good his kung fu was, he did not dare to commit a crime. In the face of absolute proof, no matter how good his kung fu was, it was useless. "Sigh." Wang Yu sighed and said helplessly, "All right, as long as you don't have any ulterior motives." Before Wang Yu could finish his sentence, Yang Na spat at him. "Don't worry. Even if I'm blind, I won't like a piece of trash like you. I heard from Sister Xian that when you ran away with her, it was someone else who helped you flush the toilet. F***, if you say one more word, I'll really kill you." Wang Yu's face suddenly turned gloomy. I'll go to the kitchen to cut the vegetables." Mu Zixian saw this and stuck out her tongue. She quickly fled the scene. "I'll go help too." Yang Na hurriedly got up and followed Mu Zixian into the kitchen. Only the gloomy Wang Yu was left in the living room. At this time, the girls in the studio also went offline. One by one, they left the bedroom and entered the bathroom. Not long after, Ma Li's voice came from the bathroom. "Landlord, the toilet seems to be clogged." Wang Yu was furious. "Don't King mention the toilet to me." Putting aside Wang Yu's embarrassing incident, with Yang Na's reassurance, Wang Yu, who had been on tenterhooks for the past 6 months, could finally relax and have a good new year. However, the Chuanjin group in the game were not as comfortable as Wang Yu. After the Gokuraku Jodo's people came to their senses, they immediately rushed back to Yuhuichen. Chuanjin's people were quite well known in Yuhuichen. The Gokuraku Jodo's people quickly found Wuji in the tavern. Before this, One Flower and One World had also heard that Wuji was a person who could be tricked. Now that they had seen Wuji's sinister side, they decisively issued a death order in the guild. If they saw Chuanjin's people, especially a male cleric, they must not speak nonsense. Just kill them. No matter how strong Wuji was, he was only one person. Gokuraku Jodo had so many experts. After struggling for a few seconds, he was beaten into white light. The other Chuanjin members were strolling around, planning to take advantage of the 2 guilds' war. Suddenly, a message from Wuji flashed in the guild channel. "Quickly find a safe place to go offline. We've been targeted by the Gokuraku Jodo. Everyone, why would the Gokuraku Jodo target us? Are you okay? Mingdu immediately replied. However, before Wuji could reply, everyone looked at their friend's list. Wuji had gone offline. Everyone immediately understood that Wuji had been killed. The safe zone in Rebirth only had resurrection points and teleportation points. For Wuji to go offline so quickly, he must have been sent back to the resurrection point. Bao San shouted in the channel, "Everyone, quickly go to the resurrection point. Be careful." Chun Xiang immediately stopped him. "We can't go to the resurrection point or teleportation point. We have to find another safe place." The Gokuraku Jodo's people were not idiots. Since they were here to stop Xuanzhen's people, they naturally knew what Xuanzhen's people would do in such a situation. Therefore, there must be people lying in ambush near the safe zone. Safe place? Where? Chapter 201. Genius 1 Second Remember if you want to go. Talk.net, providing you with exciting novels to read. The guild encampment was the same as the guild office. It was an office area provided by the system for the players. These places were naturally extremely safe. Love, Go Small Talk, Net. The only difference between the two locations was that the office required rent and was public territory. The guild encampment was private territory. Once someone applied for a guild war, the guild encampment could be attacked. There were very few people in Xuanzhen. It wasn't worth renting an office for a few people. Usually, they would meet up in the tavern. Therefore, in Yuhuicheng, the only private safe zone was the guild encampment. However, these people had always been undisciplined and rarely cared about the guild encampment. If it wasn't for Brother Chun's reminder, they really wouldn't have remembered that they had a safe zone. There were two ways to return to the guild encampment. One was to use the teleportation circle, and the other was to run. Xuanzhen had a guild encampment in Yuhuicheng. This was something everyone knew. Pure Land of Bliss had sealed the city gates early in the morning to prevent Xuanzhen's people from escaping. Yuhuicheng wasn't a major city. There were a total of 7 resurrection points and 10 teleportation points. At this time, Pure Land of Bliss had arranged people to guard them, especially the 4 city gates. One Flower One World had calculated that Xuanzhen's people wouldn't be able to enter the teleportation circle and would go through the city gates. Therefore, he had deployed a large number of people at the 4 city gates. In Yuhuicheng, Pure Land of Bliss had already learned of the movements of Xuanzhen's people. One Flower One World had sent out several small teams to hunt down Xuanzhen's people. One Flower One World was confident that Xuanzhen's people wouldn't be able to escape this time. However, One Flower One World had underestimated Xuanzhen's character. They didn't even think about it. Xuanzhen's people dared to guard the guild encampment with only 8 people. They dared to run the Hell Instance dungeon at level 20. Were they the kind of people who would follow his plan? This group of people from Xuanzhen were all skilled and bold. Famous Sword Dao Xue and Baiming Yuyu relied on the fact that they were thieves and set their sights on the teleportation point and resurrection point. In the end, they saw that the players from Gokuraku Jodo had surrounded these few places tightly, and they couldn't squeeze through it all. Only then did they give up. However, the two of them knew stealth. Even if they didn't return to the encampment, they weren't afraid of being chased. They found a random corner and quietly logged off. Not only could Chun Xiang fly, but he also had countless control techniques. Along the way, Brother Chun fought and controlled while retreating. After luring the pursuers into a dead end at the base of the city wall, he found a random corner and transformed into a cloud of black fog. Under the dumbfounded gazes of the pursuers from Gokuraku Jodo, he openly flew out of the city. To place one's pride, this unlucky child had become addicted to leaping onto roofs and vaulting over walls after being blocked once. Just like last time, he found a low building and jumped onto the roof. Then, with each step he took, he jumped onto the city wall and flipped down. Chun Xiang and the others' class skills gave them the ability to dodge and climb over walls. However, Mingdu and the other 2 didn't have this ability. Radiant Doe had always been a simple and crude player with high magic damage. Moreover, he was very shameless. After luring the pursuers into an alley, He raised his staff and cast 2 AoE skills. The pursuers from Pure Land of Bliss had nowhere to hide, and all of them died. The tanks were also struggling at death's door. When the tanks from Pure Land of Bliss reached Radiant Doe and were about to deal him a fatal blow, Radiant Doe's figure flashed and teleported to the rooftop. Mages couldn't jump or run. Moreover, Mingdu's teleportation skill had a limited range. He couldn't jump over walls like to place one's pride and leave the city. However, by relying on his height, Mingdu was able to bully the short-range classes with ease. As for Bao San and Yin Lao Air, they were well aware of their own shortcomings. Therefore, the moment they received Wuji's message, the two of them gathered together. The two of them had decent attack and defense, and their coordination was seamless. Moreover, they had just changed into new equipment. The hunting party from Gokura Kijodo couldn't deal any substantial damage to them at all. The two of them were like a tortoiseshell with thorns rampaging around. Although they couldn't eliminate the pursuers, they still gave the pursuers a headache. An hour had passed. One Flower, One World, who had been waiting at the revival point, began to feel annoyed when he saw that Xuanjin hadn't come to their trap. What's wrong with you guys? A few hundred people chasing after 7 people, and you still haven't succeeded after an hour? One Flower, One World roared angrily in the channel. Those 2 bandits know stealth. We can't keep track of them at all. The players from Gokuraku Jodo retorted. What about the Dark Warlock? Can't you catch a cloth-armored class? One Flower, One World continued asking. That Warlock's control skills are too disgusting. He also knows summoning skills. Normal people really can't stop him, but we've cornered him. Where is he? He flew away. The player who was chasing after Chun Xiang replied honestly. One Flower, One World secretly spat out a mouthful of blood. Flew away. Are you King kidding me? It's true. He turned into a cloud of black mist and floated away. The player said, Damn it, what about the others? Don't tell me they flew away too? One Flower, One World suddenly felt a little uneasy. They didn't fly away, but their Grandmaster of Combat knows how to walk on the roof. He jumped over the wall and escaped. The player who was chasing to place one's pride replied, CK. What else? One Flower, One World's forehead began to sweat. Damn it, these guys really didn't follow the rules. They actually didn't go through the door, but the wall. That wizard is on the roof. King killed so many of our brothers. Requesting air support. The 2 warriors are too tough. We can't fight them at all. Requesting fire support. Strength was determined by comparison. The 2 teams that were chasing after Mingdu and Bao San were initially embarrassed that they couldn't handle their target. Now that they heard that the others had lost their target, they instantly felt like the pot calling the kettle black. They actually had the cheek to ask for reinforcements. Coordinates. One Flower, One World shouted. A few hundred people were chasing after 7 people. Not only had they lost more than half of them, they couldn't even handle the remaining 3. One Flower, One World's mood was indescribable. The second alley in the south of the city. The wizard is here, south of the city's trading street. 2 warriors are here. Brothers at the stronghold, don't move. Everyone else, form up and surround them. Don't let them escape. After One Flower, One World gave the order, he led his men and rushed towards the south of the city. While the people from Gokura Kijodo changed their battle strategy, in the Xuanjin channel, Mingdu said to the other 2, second bro, third bro, they can't catch us. They'll definitely need reinforcements later. We can't fight alone anymore. Otherwise, we won't be able to handle their firepower. In Xuanjin, the ones with the most ideas were Wuji and Chun Xiang. Now that both of them weren't around, the burden of planning fell on Mingdu's shoulders. Although Mingdu often came up with bad ideas, Bao San and Yin Lao Air weren't the type to use their brains. Having someone to plan was better than nothing. Then what do? Come to the second alley in the south of the city. I found a very good location. Chapter 202. Genius 1, Second Remember Love, Go Away. The internet provides you with exciting novels to read. When they received Mingdu's message, Bao San and Yin Lao Air were running around the trading street like headless flies. The two of them were stubborn and arrogant. The warlocks couldn't control them, the range classes couldn't attack them, and the melee classes didn't dare to get close to the warriors who could use Whirlwind Slash. At this time, the reinforcements from Gokurakujodo had yet to arrive. The two teams could only watch as the two of them broke through the defensive line and ran away. The trading street was only 2 streets away from Mingdu's location. It didn't take long for the two of them to arrive at Mingdu's location. In the alley, 3 archers from Gokurakujodo stood at the bottom of the alley and shot wildly at Mingdu. There were also 2 warriors protecting the archers. An archer's attack range was much further than a mage's. Mingdu jumped up and down like a monkey as he cursed. F***CKU. Do you dare to take 2 steps forward and blast your father to his heart's content? I owe my potions. I'll give you a gold. Do you dare to come and pick them up? The members of the Quanjin sect had plenty of potions on them. Moreover, these potions were the most precious intermediate recovery potions on the market. Hence, Mingdu could barely hold on. However, this potion, which cost 50 silvers, made him wish he were dead. Stop talking nonsense. Your potions will run out sooner or later. You might as well save some money and surrender. The people from Gokurakujodo felt their hearts ache when they saw Mingdu gulping down potions as if they didn't cost anything. This type of potion had always been priceless. Ordinary experts would only carry 3 to 5 bottles to preserve their lives. However, this bastard was wasting it as if he was drinking water. Mingdu snorted coldly. Humph! There will only be Chuanjin who will die in battle. There won't be a coward who will die. Then go to hell. Shoot! The people from Gokurakujodo gathered their firepower and fired another volley at the roof. As Mingdu dodged, he looked behind the Gokurakujodo's group. He saw Inlao Air and Bao San sneaking up and preparing to launch a sneak attack. When everyone from the Pure Land of Bliss saw Mingdu's gaze, they immediately turned around to look behind them. Mingdu suddenly shouted, "Second brother, third brother, you're here." Everyone from the Pure Land of Bliss laughed upon hearing this. One of the warriors sneered in disdain. "Humph! I've long heard that the people of Chuanjin are despicable and like to trick others. Do you think you can bluff your father with this little trick?" Bang, bang. Before the warrior could finish his words, 2 clashing sounds could be heard. Then, the world spun and the warrior was sent flying. The warrior took a few steps back and steadied his mind. Just when he was about to raise his head to see who had launched a sneak attack on him, he saw a huge shield that looked like a huge wall coming at him. The warrior couldn't dodge in time and was knocked unconscious on the spot. Immediately after, Inlao Air took out his sword and turned to the warrior's back, slashing at the warrior's neck. After the stun effect wore off, the warrior brandished his sword to resist. Inlao Air parried for a few rounds before Shield Strike's cooldown ended. He used Shield Slash to stun the warrior and slashed again, turning the warrior into white light. On the other side, Bao San also ended the battle after fighting 1 against 4. Bao San had obtained a new set of top-tier equipment. His attack and defense were among the best in the entire server. Moreover, Bao San was playing manual mode. He used Collision Break to send the warrior flying. Then, he used Collision Inertia to follow up with Whirlwind Slash, turning 3 warriors into white light. Before the warrior could react, Bao San had already moved to his side and killed him with a series of combo attacks. Mingdu was dumbfounded as he watched from the roof. "Io, Bao San, you're really different after changing your equipment. You've improved so much. Second brother can't do it. Why does it take so long to fight a warrior? I can kill him with a wave of my hand. F***CKU. Mother F***Cur, this F***King damage is really disgusting." Inlao Air wiped his sweat. While he scolded Mingdu, he also ridiculed his own class. "What? You didn't ask us to come just to let us see you get shot at here, right?" Bao San asked Mingdu. "We'll talk after we get up here. Their reinforcements are almost here." Mingdu said from the roof. "Up my ass. Let's hurry up and run." Inlao Air raised his shield in front of him to protect himself and Bao San. He turned around and was about to turn around. Mother of Cur, the warrior class was as heavy as a tractor. Was the upper room something they could play with? This mother asterisk King Mingdu loved to joke around. Want to run? Hee hee. Do you think you can run away? At that moment, a group of people surrounded the entrance of the alley. The person in the lead was none other than One Flower, One World. Kill them. One Flower, One World didn't want to waste time with Chuanjin's people. He raised his hand and commanded his subordinates to charge forward. Yin Lao, Air, and Bao San were blocked in a dead end. With so many people attacking, one shield definitely wouldn't be able to protect them. When the time came, the two of them would definitely die. Mingdu continued to shout from above. Look at the guild channel. Hurry up and stop wasting time. When Yin Lao, Air, and Bao San heard this, they opened the guild channel and looked at each other. Bao San suddenly jumped up. Yin Lao, Air crouched down and rolled under Bao San. He raised his shield and slammed it upwards. Bao San was instantly sent flying over the eaves. In midair, Bao San activated charge and jumped onto the roof. F***CK. Hit that shield warrior. When the people from Gokuraku Jodo saw Bao San flying onto the roof, they all turned their attention to Yin Lao Air. Suddenly, there was a flash of light. A black-robed wizard with a potion bottle in his mouth appeared where Yin Lao Air was standing. The people from Gokuraku Jodo rubbed their eyes and said in surprise, F***CK. It's their wizard. Why is he there? Archer, kill him. That wizard isn't easy to deal with. One Flower, One World also knew that Mingdu was Chuanjin's main firepower. He immediately gave the order to attack. Mingdu chuckled and waved his hand at everyone. There was another flash of light, and he once again flew onto the roof. F***CK. Everyone instantly broke down. Did these be asterisk cheese from Chuanjin like to walk on roofs so much? Not bad, oldly. You can even come up with such a despicable method. Yin Lao who had landed on the roof, laid on the eaves with his butt sticking up. Looking at the people of the Elysium realm who were flustered and exasperated, he cheerfully turned his head and praised with a hint of disbelief in his words. Mingdu chuckled and said, hee hee, things like skills have to be learned and applied flexibly. Do you know that? I'm just a little smarter than you idiots. F***CK. How dare you say I'm brainless? I'm going to throw you down. Come on, give it a try. Mingdu raised his staff and shouted. Fine, you win. Yin Lao Air looked at his pursuers on the ground and retracted his head helplessly. Mingdu was a B***TCH among B***cheese. If Yin Lao Air dared to throw him down, he would dare to switch places with Yin Lao Air again. At that time, the one who would die would definitely not be Mingdu. How about we log off here? Yin Lao Air asked Mingdu. Mingdu said, Are you stupid? If we stay here, they won't be able to come up. If we leave, they'll definitely use the method we used just now to come up and occupy our positions. They have a lot of people. They can exhaust you to death, even if they take turns. Then what do we do? Why don't we kill ourselves? Yin Lao Air asked gloomily. He suddenly felt that rather than wasting time like this, it was better to die once. It was only 10% experience. Mingdu said, We can't admit defeat even if we die. We'll wait here. Wait for who? Iron Ox. Chapter 203. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Let's provide you with exciting novels to read. Okay. Hearing the words Iron Ox, Bao San, and Yin Lao Air suddenly felt that there was still a glimmer of hope. After all, there were only about 100 people in the alley. With Wang Yu's strength, he might not be able to kill them head-on, but he could still tear apart their formation. 10% EXP was still EXP, so it was best not to die. Seeing that the three of them had entered the room, One Flower and One World gnashed their teeth in anger. They called for the Gokuraku Jodo players to capture the three of them. However, with the three of them around, it was not easy for the Gokuraku Jodo players to enter the room. The three of them were like playing whack-a-mole. Shield bash, fireball, heavy hit. Hit whoever came. Just like that, the Gokuraku Jodo warriors were pushed down by the three of them. The scene looked like dumplings being thrown into a pot. Speaking of dumplings, the Gokuraku Jodo players suddenly remembered that today was Chinese New Year's Eve. F***. They were being dumplings here on Chinese New Year's Eve. Seeing his subordinates in such a miserable state, One Flower and One World shouted angrily, "Cover fire!" The Gokuraku Jodo's mages took a few steps forward and raised their staffs to attack the three from afar. Hee. Are they really stupid, or are they pretending to be? Mingdu smiled mischievously as he ran forward and waved his staff. In an instant, the ground was set ablaze, and arrows rained down from the sky. The Gokuraku Jodo players under the eaves were instantly killed. Fortunately, Chuanjin and the others successfully defended the guild encampment and rewarded you, Huichen, quite a lot of honor. Otherwise, with so many people killed, why would the Gokuraku Jodo players need to come out? The guards had to do justice on behalf of the heavens. F***. Come back. Archers, shoot them. One Flower and One World was dumbfounded. They hurriedly called back the remaining mages and sent out a class with longer arms. Lao snorted coldly. With a clang, he placed his giant shield in front of him. The giant shield was like a wall that protected the three of them. An archer's armor pierce could only pierce through armor. A shield was a weapon, and its defense depended entirely on its hardness and durability. Lao's giant shield didn't have much attack power, and its magic defense wasn't high either. However, its hardness and durability were insane. The archer's arrows only made dense clanging sounds when they hit it, but the giant shield only shook slightly. When the archers were unable to penetrate the shield, they would inflict a single point of damage to Lao. Although Lao had health regeneration equipment, Lao's HP gradually decreased due to the archer's concentrated attacks. After shooting for more than 10 minutes, Lao's health finally fell below 50%. While the archers were celebrating, Lao took out a health potion and poured it into his mouth, instantly restoring his health back to full. Seeing the health bar above Lao's head suddenly full, the archers almost threw their bows away. Not only was he so resistant to shooting, he even had such a powerful health potion. What the F***. Don't use up all my arrows before exhausting them to death. Boss, my mom is calling me for a reunion dinner. The archer looked at One Flower and One World with grievance. One Flower and One World hurriedly comforted everyone. Don't worry. Intermediate health potions are hard to buy. They definitely don't have many. When Mingdu heard One Flower and One World's words, he laughed and threw a stack of intermediate health potions to the floor. He said with a smile, "It's just intermediate health potions. We Chuanjin have plenty of them. These are for you." One Flower and One World exclaimed, "Don't go over. It might be a trap." It really is intermediate health potions. The Gokuraku Jodo people took a closer look. It was indeed true. Ignoring One Flower and One World's obstruction, they all rushed forward. Intermediate health potions were good stuff that was hard to buy even if you had money. Only fools would not pick it up when it was right in front of them. However, just as everyone ran under the eaves, a fire emerged from the ground and surrounded everyone. My hands are shaking. I'm really sorry. Everyone, continue to pick it up. Mingdu shouted again. How could everyone fall for it a second time? They hurriedly retreated out of Mingdu's range and watched as the stack of health potions was refreshed by the system. After the Chuanjin trio killed the Gokuraku Jodo people, they were still happily chatting. When do you think Iron Ox will come? He won't come all night, right? Will your mom call you for dinner? Lao asked Bao San. No, Wuji must have called my mom. Bao San shook his head and asked, What about you? Won't your family call you? I don't have a family. Lao's expression was a little miserable. Sorry. What about you, old Lee? I'm a worker. No one cares if I don't go home. Mingdu said. Seeing this scene, One Flower, One World was about to go crazy. Warriors couldn't go up. Mages couldn't go over. Archers were useless. It was just 3 people, yet they were so difficult to deal with. Everyone, come to the South Alley. I don't believe we can't kill them. One Flower, One World ordered in the guild channel. After receiving One Flower, One World's order, the Gokuraku Jodo players at the respawn point, teleportation point, and main entrance rushed to the South Alley. There weren't many people on New Year's Eve. With a few thousand people rushing there, the Yu Huicheng players were all curious and whispering to each other. What happened? Is there a quest in the south of the city? What kind of quest is there? I heard that the Gokura Kijodo and the Blood Alliance are fighting. Bullsh asterisk T, I'm from the Blood Alliance. This time, it's the Gokura Kijodo attacking Chuanjin. Attacking Chuanjin? Io, are these foreigners sick in the head? Who knows? It shouldn't be normal. The worldview of the Yu Huicheng players had long been overturned by the people from Chuanjin. It was normal for a big guild to bully a small guild, but in their eyes, it was abnormal. The Gokura Kijodo had a permanent population of 2,987 people. Excluding the players who were offline on New Year's Eve and profession players, the Gokura Kijodo had about 2,400 people. Archers made up about 1/5 of them, which was about 400 to 500 people. An arrow formation with 400 to 500 people was quite terrifying. In Lao Air was wearing a set and a half, and his health was only around 3,000. 3 volleys of arrows could forcefully take away half of In Lao Air's health. Each time, In Lao Air would have to use a health potion. No matter how many health potions Xuanjin had, it couldn't withstand this kind of consumption. It didn't take long before In Lao Air only had 1 set of health potions left. With Bao San's and Mingdu's, they could only last for about 10 minutes. At this time, Li Shui, who had just finished her New Year's Eve dinner and was helping to clear the table, received a phone call. Brother Yu, it's for you. Li Shui passed the phone to Wang Yu, who was sitting on the sofa picking his teeth. Yes. Wang Yu took the phone and replied a few times before standing up. Brother Yu, why is the leader of Wuji visiting you so early? Visiting my ass. They're fighting in the game, and he's asking me for help. Wang Yu passed the phone to Li Shui and walked into the bedroom. Chapter 204. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Shua, Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Mingdu's group was on the verge of collapsing from the bombardment of Gokuraku's archers. It looked like they wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. While One Flower, One World led his people to ravage Mingdu's group on the roof, he sent 7 groups of players to the resurrection point. He planned to completely trap the 3 at the resurrection point. After the chase, One Flower and One World had gained a better understanding of how difficult it was to deal with Chuanjin. They knew that these monsters were not easy to trap. Hence, the pair of players responsible for trapping Chuanjin were well equipped. They had crowd control, defense, and DPS to ensure that such an awkward situation would not occur again. When the encirclement team hurriedly returned to the street where the resurrection point was, at the entrance of the combat dojo, a tall Grandmaster of Combat suddenly came into view. The most eye-catching thing was that the Grandmaster of Combat had a Tai Chi yin-yang fish symbol on his chest. The yin-yang fish was glowing, and it was extremely arrogant. The Grandmaster of Combat's dojo has discovered a guy from Chuanjin. Colorless, the team leader in charge of surrounding the Grandmaster of Combat's dojo, sent a message to One Flower, One World. One Flower, One World replied, "Kill him first and block the resurrection point. We'll kill these 3 and head over immediately." All right. After receiving the order, Colorless called out to her subordinates and surrounded the Grandmaster of Combat. A minute later, One Flower, One World received another message from Colorless. That Grandmaster of Combat might have gone to the south of the city. One Flower, One World was confused. Didn't I tell you to kill him? Why did you let him escape? Colorless paused for a moment and stammered, "We were killed. Killed." One Flower, One World was speechless. The word trash was stuck between his teeth. He was just short of saying it out loud. Love go small, say, Netku that was a fully equipped 20-man elite team, but they were wiped out in less than a minute. Even if it was 20 monsters, it was impossible to kill them all in a minute. However, One Flower, One World thought from another perspective. The people from Chuanjin were famous for being despicable and shameless. Perhaps they had set up another trap. After all, if the 3 people on the roof could hold back so many people, it wasn't impossible for the others to trick an elite team. Thinking of this, One Flower, One World said helplessly, "Forget it, ignore him." Anyway, if he comes to South City, he'll die no matter what. Don't underestimate that guy. He's very strong. Colorless warned in the guild channel. However, his warning was completely ignored by One Flower and One World. Wasn't he just a scammer? In the face of absolute power, all schemes and tricks were like paper tigers. There were more than 2,000 people here. Could they all be wiped out by him alone? What a joke. Hey, are you three still alive? Mingdu. The Grandmaster combat, just now, was Wang Yu. When he wiped out Gokuraku Jodo's encirclement team, Wang Yu asked about the situation of the battle. Knowing that the three of them weren't in a good situation, he sent a message in the channel. Mingdu shouted, F***CK, you're finally here. Come to South City quickly. Second brother is being gang raped by hundreds of people. He can't hold on much longer. Yin Lao Air said gloomily, What do you mean I'm being gang raped? Do you believe that the three of us will suffer together? Mingdu immediately said sternly, Stop fooling around. Old Cow will be here soon. Don't drop the ball at this critical juncture. The problem is there's so many of them. I can't beat them. Wang Yu said, if there were 100 or 200 people, Wang Yu could still try to break through, but 1,000 or 2,000, Wang Yu wasn't an arrogant fool. Call the guards. South City is so remote, there are no guards. Wang Yu replied. The grocery store that Wang Yu just bought was in that alley, so he was naturally familiar with the place. F***CK, we can still hold on for another 5 or 6 minutes. Hurry up and think of something. I'm not Wuji. Besides, with such overwhelming strength, even Wuji wouldn't be able to reverse it. If there's really no other way, you guys can just die first, Wang Yu said helplessly. At this moment, there was a series of ding-ding-dong sounds. Everyone in Xuanjin who had just gone offline had all come back online. At this time, the girls heard that something had happened to Xuanjin, so they all came back online. What do we do? What do we do? Second brother's shield endurance is about to run out. Seeing that everyone was online, Mingdu shouted in the channel again, Hurry up and help. Wuji was silent for a while and said, The safe zone has been completely occupied, and there are no more places to stay in South City. Looks like you guys will have to die first. No, the safe zone has not been completely occupied. There are actually many hidden safe zones in Rebirth. At this time, Mu Zixian suddenly spoke up. Hidden safe zones? What do you mean? Everyone heard and asked puzzledly. Mu Zixian said, In the system settings, residential areas are the safe zones. There are many residential areas in South City's alley. Yes, our shop is also there. Wang Yu also added. Shop? Wuji was slightly stunned and asked, In other words, as long as they hide in your shop now, they will be safe. Wang Yu scratched his head and said, I haven't had the time to take over that shop. I can't use the authority now. Everyone fell into deep thought again. Although they had not bought a shop before, as professional players, they still had some understanding of shop transactions. The handover of the shop had to be done in the shop with the NPC. At this time, the South City's alley had been blocked by the people from Gokuraku Jodo. Xuanjin's people could not pass through no matter what. Give me the authority. I will take over. Mu Zixian said. Wife, can you do it? Wang Yu asked worriedly. Mu Zixian said, It's okay. I am a new face in Xuanjin. Moreover, they won't make things difficult for a woman, right? I think it's okay. Wuji nodded. Okay, my ass. I'm not your wife. Wang Yu was furious. Levels were not important to Mu Zixian, but under the full simulation, the feeling of being beaten to death was very real. Wang Yu could not let his wife get slashed. I will go with you. Yang Na also stood up at this time. I'm also a new face. You only know how to mess things up. Wang Yu still did not agree. Mu Zixian smiled and said, With Na Na here, it's okay. If we die, you can kill them a few more times to avenge us. Since we are a team, we should be prepared to sacrifice ourselves. Hurry up and give me the authority. TSK. Sister Nyo's awareness is much higher than ours. The people from Xuanjin's side, they were just a small team. They had always fought if they could win and ran if they couldn't. They did not have much sense of team honor. At this time, Mu Zixian's words made their blood boil. Okay. Wang Yu always listened to Mu Zixian. At this time, When he saw that Mu Zixian's words were very reasonable, he hesitated for a moment and gave the authority to Mu Zixian. After giving the authority to Mu Zixian, Wang Yu said again, "Wife, don't worry. If they dare to touch you, I will stop them every day until they stop playing." When the people from Chuanjin heard this, a layer of cold sweat appeared on their bodies. They secretly mourned for Gokura Kijodo. Chapter 205. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Sure, Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. The place where Mu Zixian and Yang Na logged off was near the city gate, so it was very close to the alley south of the city. Soon, the two girls arrived at the mouth of the alley. What did 2,000 people mean? Not to mention an alley, even a main street would be filled to the brim. This was also the reason why Wang Yu couldn't rush over alone. There was no place to dodge at all. He was crowded from all sides, and he couldn't fly out even if he wanted to. However, in order to make space for the archers, the majority of Gokura Kijodo's players were standing outside the alley, filling up the entire street. When Yu Huiqing's players saw this, they knew that the big guilds were bullying them, so they took a detour. In the game, girls were always very popular. Therefore, when the two girls approached, the people from Gokura Kijodo didn't frown at them like they did with other people. They just smiled and said, "Girls, there's a problem here. This road is blocked up." Mu Zixian pretended to be scared and said, "But I have to go to my shop." "In your shop? Where?" the player asked politely. "It's there." Mu Zixian pointed at the alley and said, "The sundry goods shop in the south of the city is my shop." "Is that so?" The player scratched his head and looked at the two with a troubled expression. Then, he sent a message to One Flower, One World. "There are two girls here. They want to enter the alley." "Miss? Could it be someone from Chuanjin? I heard that there are also 4 girls in Chuanjin." "No love, go small, say, Netku. I'm a local of Yuhui City. I've seen those 4 girls. None of them are knights or archers." The player swore solemnly. "I'm a native of Yuhui City." "All right, let them in," One Flower, One World said magnanimously. In the game, many people would try their best to show their generosity in front of girls, and One Flower, One World was no exception. After obtaining One Flower and One World's approval, the two girls entered the alley. Mu Zixian still had a slightly panicked expression on her face. This time, it was not a deliberate act. More than 400 people were madly shooting at the roof. The scene was still very frightening. Yang Na was different. This girl was like Wang Yu. She was bold because of her skills. She was very calm when she saw the Gokuraku Jodo's arrow array. Seeing Yang Na's expression, One Flower, One World sensed that something was amiss. "Wait." When the two of them were less than 10 meters away from the grocery store, One Flower, One World called out to them. "What's wrong?" Mu Zixian asked in panic. "I heard that there's an NPC in the Mage Academy who knows shape-shifting. I'm afraid that someone might sneak in, so I have to check." One Flower, One World said. "How?" Mu Zixian asked in a low voice. "During the transformation, you can't touch your face." "Let me touch your face." One Flower, One World stared at Mu Zixian and said, "Holy sh*t, is this for real? Boss is so good at playing hoodlum. I really admire you." Upon hearing One Flower and One World's words, not only did Mu Zixian and Lu Yu's expressions change drastically, but the people from the Pure Land of Bliss also started discussing amongst themselves. Mu Zixian glared at One Flower, One World and said angrily, "This is harassment." One Flower, One World smiled and said, "I can't help it. This is official business. If you don't want to, you can leave." As he spoke, One Flower, One World walked forward and extended his hand to touch Mu Zixian's face. Duong. Just as One Flower, One World was about to touch Mu Zixian, an arrow suddenly flew towards One Flower, One World's interface door and repelled him. This gave One Flower, One World quite a fright. This guy was a warrior with top-notch equipment, but he was actually shot by a girl on the roadside with an arrow. One Flower, One World had not seen many experts who could take someone's life with a raise of their hand. Moreover, it was a girl. Yu Huiqing's guild was filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Apart from Chuanjin, there wasn't a second guild like this. They are from Chuanjin. Get rid of them. When he thought of this, One Flower, One World yelled, Sister Xian, go and open the door. I will block them. Yang Na shouted and shifted her feet. She dodged One Flower, One World's greatsword and raised her hand to kill an archer in front of Mu Zixian. The alley was filled with archers. Once an archer was in the body, they would lose all their fighting strength. No matter how bad Mu Zixian's skills were, she was still a knight. She lowered her head and charged forward, headbutting. The distance of charge was 500 yards. All the archers within the range of Mu Zixian's 5 charge were sent flying. 500 yards left. Yang Na followed behind Mu Zixian with strange footwork. She avoided the entanglement of the archers behind her while shooting at the archers in front of Mu Zixian, clearing a path for Mu Zixian. However, no matter how mysterious her footwork was, it couldn't withstand the simultaneous attacks of hundreds of archers. In the next second, Yang Na was shot in a white light. Mu Zixian was still 3 meters away from the grocery store. When the Chuanjin Guild received the news of Yang Na's death, their faces turned gloomy. From the perspective of the game, the death of Yang Na and Mu Zixian wasn't a big loss. However, if this operation didn't succeed, Mingdu and the other 2 would undoubtedly die. These 3 guys had killed many people on their way to escape. Although Yu Huiqing's honor could prevent them from being chased by the guards, their losses after death were still calculated according to PK value. With the PK value the 3 of them currently had, if they were killed, it was estimated that even their underwear would drop. Even their level would drop to 15. Such a loss was truly immeasurable. After Yang Na was killed, everyone turned their attention to Mu Zixian. Mu Zixian's skills were very low, and she was scared silly on the spot. Bang! Before the arrows arrived, a large shield fell from the sky. Mingdu and the other 2 took advantage of the gap when the archers attacked Mu Zixian and Yang Na to jump down from the roof. Yin Lao Air raised a shield to block a wave of damage for Mu Zixian. Sister Nyo, hurry up and open the door. Yin Lao Air roared. He charged forward with his large shield, scattering the archers' formation in front of him. Shops with NPCs guarding them required authorization to trade. However, shops without NPCs like the Sundry Goods shop in the south of the city only required one to personally open the door. Yin Lao Air steadied himself, and Bao San immediately activated Whirlwind Slash and rushed out. At the same time, Mingdu also released Hellfire and Sky Rocket Strike. Bao San stepped on Hellfire, and Whirlwind Slash borrowed the power of the fire. It was as if his entire body was covered in flames, and he directly tore apart the Pure Land of Bliss formation. Just think about it. An alley that was no more than 10 meters wide could hold 400 archers. Just how densely populated was that? Radiant City and Bao San had taken the lives of 70 to 80 people in a single exchange. This made One Flower, One World's heartache. The other classes of Pure Land of Bliss rushed into the alley the moment the 3 jumped down from the roof. After Bao San used Whirlwind Slash, he didn't stop and hurriedly hid behind Yin Lao Air. Seeing that the Pure Land of Bliss people were getting closer and closer, the 3 suddenly received a system notification. System notification. Sister Nyo's Sundry Goods shop has given you access. When the 3 saw the notification, they hurriedly retreated into the Sundry Goods shop. At the same time, Mu Zixian closed the door. F*CK. It's finally over. Mingdu was in tears. Luckily, Wang Yu had bought a shop in this rundown place, allowing the 3 of them to escape the fate of being exposed once again. Chapter 206. F*CK. From the start of the chase, the people from Gokura Kajodo had been in a passive state. Because of these few people, countless experts from Gokura Kajodo had lost EXP. They finally managed to block the 3 guys and were about to kill them, but who knew that the cooked ducks would fly away? One Flower, One World's grievances were indescribable. Bam. One Flower, One World's resentment grew stronger as he kicked the broken door of the grocery store. This was a private place that had been closed off. With the support of the system god, Not to mention this broken door, even the paper on the window, the flower, and the world couldn't be damaged in the slightest. However, at this moment, the door of the grocery store opened a crack, and Mingdo peeked outside. He stretched out his finger and hooked it at one flower, one world. Flower, come here. One flower and one world was so angry that they lost their minds. They actually took a step forward and looked in through the gap of the door curiously. Suddenly, 4 large hands reached out from the crack and pulled one flower, one world's head in. Then, with a forceful push, one flower, one world was stuck in the crack. F***, come and save me. One flower, one world turned pale with fright as he struggled to pull his head out. This guy probably didn't even pass physics. How could he pull his head out in this situation? Of course, it was even more unreliable to knock his head in. Did he really think that the system was joking? One flower, one world was already on the verge of death. Now that he was being ravaged by Bao San and Inlao air, the people from Gakurikajodo didn't even get close to him before they turned into white light. Xuanjin, I won't let you live. One flower, one world roared madly in the revival point. When the players from Yu Huicheng saw this scene, they all looked at him with pity. Half of them were pitying this person's bad luck for offending Xuanjin. The other half was pitying Zhang Xian's intellect. After all, he was at loggerheads with the Quanjin sect. What do we do now? They blocked the store? Mu Zixin asked. Wu Ji calmly said, It's all right. They will disperse very soon to regroup. In the next 10 minutes, the few of you from the grocery store should find a teleportation point and stay there. Other than Iron Bull, everyone else should come to the church. Then what should I do? Seeing that Wu Ji had excluded him from the plan, Wang Yu asked gloomily. From now on, you just have to chase after one flower in one world. Just now, not only did he ask someone to shoot your wife, he even touched her personally. Do you know that? Holy shit. This dog thing, I have to chop off his hand. Wang Yu was furious. Everyone was silent. Wu Ji was trying to kill one flower in one world. Just as Wu Ji had said, the people from Pure Land of Bliss dispersed after a while. They knew that they couldn't force their way into a private territory. Instead of that, they might as well search for the remaining Xuanjin members in the city. Wu Ji was now at the resurrection point of the church. There was a team of 20 elite players from Pure Land of Bliss outside the church. The people from Pure Land of Bliss would occupy the resurrection point and the teleportation point within 10 minutes. Once the people from Pure Land of Bliss took control of these two positions, the resurrection point and teleportation point wouldn't be able to leave. In that case, the people from Xuanjin would be in a passive position with nowhere to escape, being locked up like dogs. Xuanjin didn't have such a habit. With only a few people from Xuanjin, they would definitely be asking for trouble if they fought with a big guild like Pure Land of Bliss. That was why Wu Ji asked the others to help him out. This way, they wouldn't be blocked by the people from Pure Land of Bliss. After the people from Pure Land of Bliss left the alley, other than the players who went to guard the position and the gate, the others split into 50 teams and searched the city for the remaining people from Xuanjin. The people from Pure Land of Bliss were used to being domineering. They had never been as sullen as they were today. Everyone was filled with anger and fighting spirit. Even One Flower and One World personally led an elite team to search the streets. At this time, the people blocking the resurrection point of the church were 20 people led by Rushi Wuwen and Zhu Fa Kongxiang. Rushi Wuwen had seen how powerful Wang Yu was. That was why the 20 people he led were the first team from Pure Land of Bliss. Every one of them was no weaker than Rushi Wuwen. Rushi Wuwen was confident that he wouldn't be afraid even if all of the people from Xuanjin were in front of him. Blocking people was a very boring job. These players weren't professional police. Rushi Wuwen and the others sat at the foot of the wall and looked at the entrance of the church. They naturally thought that as long as Wu Ji wasn't an idiot, he wouldn't come out to seek his own death. Who would have thought that at this time, Wu Ji would swagger out and even give Rushi Wuwen and the others the middle finger. F***CK. This guy is asking for it. Zhu Fa Kongxiang had a bad temper. He immediately jumped up and used the charge skill on Wu Ji. Wu Ji smiled and stopped him. Then, he waved his staff and a green light connected the two of them. Zhu Fa Kong Xiang's HP dropped rapidly. There were two mages in Pure Land of Bliss team. One was called Dustless, and the other was Stainless. They were both level 20 experts. Although they hadn't changed classes yet, their attributes weren't bad at all. Moreover, the two of them hated Chuanjin even more than one flower in one world. Without waiting for Rushi Wuwen's order to attack, the two of them started casting spells at Wuji. Before the two of them could cast their spells, they suddenly screamed. One of them had his neck slit, while the other was stabbed in the back. Both of them turned into light and disappeared. Ambush! The moment Wuji appeared, he attracted the attention of everyone from Pure Land of Bliss. Therefore, they didn't notice the situation at the back. At this time, when they heard the screams, they immediately turned around and saw an assassin wretchedly slaughtering the archers at the back. That assassin was Mingjian Shui. He had good equipment and fierce skills. He used swift movement to move around the archers, and with every swing of his blade, he would take a life. The archers couldn't defend against him. When the others recovered, Mingjian Shui chuckled and went into stealth. Everyone stand back to back. Someone is pretending to be me. F***CK. Who the hell are you? At this time, two voices rang out at the same time. Everyone turned around and was stunned. They saw two Rushi Wuwen smashing their staffs at each other. Huh? Why are there two of them? One of Rushi Wuwen shouted. He's pretending to be me. Don't worry about me. Stand back to back. Be careful of the assassin. I can handle it. The other Rushi Wuwen shouted. Help me kill him. Everyone had never seen such a scene before. Looking at this and that, they subconsciously stood back to back. In this kind of situation where they didn't know right from wrong, it was naturally better to do nothing. However, the first Rushi Wuwen chuckled, jumped back, and disappeared on the spot. At the same time, a distorted barrier rose under everyone's feet. Everyone from Pure Land of Bliss was frozen on the spot. Whoosh! Chapter 207. Where did this attack come from? Rushi I Smell looked around in panic when he saw his comrade being attacked. However, he could not find anyone, causing him to feel fear. Idiot! Where are you looking? Daddy's here. At this moment, a mocking voice came from midair. Rushi I Smell looked toward the source of the voice and saw two figures standing on the wall. One was a warlock in a green robe and hat, while the other was a grandmaster of combat with a young appearance. Who are you? Rushi was surprised and threw out a very amusing question. I'm your grandfather. The warlock sneered and pointed his staff. 6 demons appeared out of thin air and shot fire arrows at the people inside the distorted barrier. F***CKU. You're taking advantage of me. I'll push you down. To place one's pride roared in anger and was about to push him down. Spring Soar said in panic, don't mess around. Let's settle this quickly. Their reinforcements are coming. To place one's pride flipped over and jumped down from the wall. He kicked Rushi I Smell's face with Eagle Stamp. Rushi I Smell was a guardian knight. Without teammates, his combat power was not very high. To place one's pride was no match for him. With the help of famous Blade Shui and North Sea has Fish, the three of them sent Rushi I Smell to the resurrection point in one round. Toxic Nova was a very powerful damage output skill. Spring Source Poison was also a rare potion. The health of the people who were frozen by Spring Soar dropped rapidly. Now that Rushi I Smell was attacked, the people inside the barrier died the moment Rushi I Smell died. At the same time, Wuji also sucked Dharma Kong Xiang to death, to the teleportation point. After dealing with this group of people, Chuanjin and the others left quickly. Meanwhile, at the next street corner, One Flower One World who received Rushi I Smell's message was about to rush over to help, but they were blocked by Wang Yu. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. The badge on Wang Yu's chest was very obvious. When One Flower One World's party saw this, they were overjoyed and quickly spread out. Whereas One Flower, One World, Wang Yu didn't attack immediately. Instead, he asked everyone about the whereabouts of One Flower, One World. One Flower, One World narrowed his eyes and asked coldly, "Why are you looking for him? Kill him." As soon as the word "kill him" left his mouth, Wang Yu flipped his hands behind his back and fished out two dagger-wielding thieves. With a flick of his wrist, the two thieves cried out in pain as their daggers fell into Wang Yu's hands. Wang Yu grabbed the daggers in a reverse grip and lightly drew two arcs across the necks of the two thieves. At the sight of this, One Flower, One World was slightly shocked. One Flower and One World had seen Wang Yu not long ago. In the Crusaders' camp in the City of Desolation, Wang Yu and Mingdu were chased like stray dogs. Who would have thought that the stray dogs at that time would have such means? To be able to drag out and kill thieves in stealth, this kid wasn't simple. But no matter how special he was just one person. Kill him. With One Flower, One World's command, magic and arrows flew out. The warrior and knight also rushed over with their heads lowered. Wang Yu switched his boxing glove into the form of a staff, breaking the magic and knocking away the arrows. The shadow of the staff flew everywhere, beating the warrior and knight into a mess. Then he propped the staff on the ground and flew in front of One Flower, One World. "You're One Flower, One World?" Wang Yu asked, glaring fiercely at One Flower, One World. "Why, yes." One Flower, One World nodded woodenly. He was the leader of a major guild, after all. If he didn't even dare to admit his identity in front of his underlings, One Flower, One World wouldn't be able to survive in the future. "Do you know why I want to kill you?" Wang Yu asked. "Because you're from Chuanjin?" "Not entirely." "Then why?" One Flower, One World was really cute, insisting on getting to the bottom of the matter. "Because your hand is dirty." Wang Yu raised his staff and pressed it against One Flower, One World's neck, turning him into a flower of white light. The expressions of the people from Pure Land of Bliss were rather complicated. They didn't know if they should attack Wang Yu or not. Wang Yu, however, ignored them and turned around, running in the direction of the warrior camp. "Is that guy going to continue killing the boss?" "Seems like it, Sai. I have a bad feeling about this." After the people from Pure Land of Bliss retreated from the southern alley, Mingdu and the others ran out from the grocery store. Then, before the people from Pure Land of Bliss finished setting up guards at the southern teleportation point, they broke through the defensive line and entered. The teleportation point was extremely safe. The people from Pure Land of Bliss couldn't harm them, so they could only curse at them. However, Mingdu and the others were extremely thick-skinned. No matter how the people from Pure Land of Bliss scolded them, they didn't take it to heart. Instead, their smug expressions made the people from Pure Land of Bliss vomit blood. "We're at the teleportation point." "Where are we going?" Mingdu asked in the guild channel. Wuji replied, "The western port." "All right." With a flash of light, the four of them disappeared into the teleportation point. The people from the Pure Land of Bliss could only watch helplessly as the four of them disappeared. There were too many teleportation arrays. As long as they entered the teleportation array, even if the four fellows from the Quanjun sect became birds that escaped from a cage, no one would be able to catch them. At the western port, Wuji, Chun Xiang, and the others have been waiting for a long time. When Mingdu and the others arrived, they anxiously shouted, "Where are you going? Hurry up and leave." "There's no rush. We're still missing one person," Wuji said calmly. Before Wuji could finish his sentence, he heard a commotion in the distance. A live figure flew over an extremely fast speed. The person was Yang Na. Yang Na was the first to die. However, due to the people from Pure Land of Bliss ambush, she was the last to escape from the resurrection point. By then, the teleportation point had already been occupied by the people from Pure Land of Bliss. Yang Na had no choice but to run all the way to the port. There were at least 5 teams following behind her. "Support her!" Wuji stepped out of the teleportation point and threw a fear at the head of the person in front of Yang Na. The others followed closely behind. Under the protection of the melee players, they spread out their crowd control skills, clearing a path for Yang Na. Unfortunately, there were too many people from Pure Land of Bliss. Even after clearing the path, many warriors still rushed over and surrounded Yang Na. As Yang Na sprinted, she suddenly leaped and stepped on the container beside her. She flew and landed on the back of the warrior from Pure Land of Bliss. Then, she used her thighs to clamp the warrior's neck. Wow, the attire of the archer profession was quite revealing. Yang Na's alluring attack made the blood of the Chuanjian players boil. Even the warrior who was being clamped was dumbfounded. I also want to be attacked like this, Chun Xiang murmured. Crack. In the next moment, Yang Na's arms wrapped around the warrior's neck. With a vicious twist, the warrior was twisted into white light. Everyone's eyes fell on Chun Xiang. Gulp. Chun Xiang swallowed his saliva, wiped his cold sweat, and asked, Everyone's here. Where are we going? Fanluo City. Why are we going there? Everyone was surprised. Fanluo City was at the southernmost part of the map. It was 4 major districts away from Yuhuicheng. Take drastic measures, Wu Ji said calmly. P.S. Damn it, I'm so depressed. I haven't finished 5 chapters. Then, I'll continue with 4 chapters tomorrow. I won't leave half a penis for you. Chapter 208. After dying twice in a day, One Flower One World was furious. He yelled in the guild channel, Damn it, I don't believe that we can't deal with a dozen of them with just a few thousand of us. Everyone, search the entire city. If you find anyone from Chuanjian, kill them. The people from Pure Land of Bliss all curled their lips when they received One Flower One World's message. They believed that everyone from Pure Land of Bliss had already seen how difficult it was to deal with these dozen of people. Killing Chuanjian's group head-on with a few thousand people against a dozen was naturally not a problem. However, these guys were hiding here and there, using guerrilla warfare to the extreme. Moreover, a normal team of a few dozen people couldn't beat them. Yu Huicheng was so huge, it was harder to capture them than to reach the heavens. Boss, Chuanjian's people ran away. At this time, a player from Pure Land of Bliss who was guarding the port reported in the channel. Ran away? Really? One Flower One World asked. It's true. We watched them board the airship with our own eyes. They might not come back for a while. The people who were with the players said. They ran away. When One Flower One World heard this news, his mood became slightly better. Although they didn't kill all of Chuanjian's people, driving them away was still a victory. In fact, ever since they started chasing Chuanjian's people in the afternoon, Pure Land of Bliss didn't have much of an advantage. One Flower One World felt a trace of regret. After all, Pure Land of Bliss was a big guild with a few thousand people. Fighting with a guild of a dozen people was not honorable if they won, and even more embarrassing if they lost. Now that they saw Chuanjian's people run away, One Flower One World actually felt a sense of relief in his heart. Not only One Flower One World, but the other people from Pure Land of Bliss also felt the pressure drop when they heard this news. Because of Chuanjian's people, the players from Pure Land of Bliss didn't even have a good time on New Year's Eve. Now that Chuanjian's people had retreated, everyone felt as if they had eaten 2 caddies of dumplings. That be *TCH is afraid of us. Of course, being chased by so many people, I would be afraid too. Just a bunch of cowards and Blood Alliance is so afraid. It seems like Blood Red War Flag is really old. The people from the Pure Land of Pure Land started to brag about themselves. At the same time, they didn't forget to look down on the Blood Alliance. One Flower One World even sent a message to Blood Red War Flag. Haha, old John, we've chased Chuanjian away. What do you think? You've missed an opportunity. One Flower One World's delighted expression was obvious. Wasn't the Blood Alliance very strong? In Yu Huicheng, you were suppressed by a small group of a dozen people. Now that the people above you have been chased away by us, it seems like there's no need to compare who's stronger and who's weaker. After receiving the news of One Flower and One World, Blood Red War Flag's face alternated between red and white. It cursed in its heart, F***CK, that bunch of trash from Chuanjian. Why didn't they deal with those idiots from Gokura Kyoto like we did? No matter how frustrated Blood Red War Flag felt, it didn't admit defeat. Hee, Guild Leader Flower, what a huge lineup. A few thousand people fighting against a dozen. Many people must have died. I heard from our warriors that they saw you twice at the revival point. F***CK. One Flower One World cursed in its heart and said shamelessly, Where there's war, there's sacrifice. As a leader, I do feel a little pressured. But now that those guys are gone, your blood alliance can finally stand tall. Ha! F asterisk CK. One Flower, One World's victorious attitude made blood-red war flag grit its teeth. It had nothing to say and could only close the chat. Seeing that blood-red war flag was silent, One Flower, One World smiled proudly and sent a message in the guild channel. Haha, on this New Year's Day, we've wiped out Chuanjin. How satisfying. I'll treat you guys to a drink later. Just as the message of One Flower, One World was sent out, a very familiar voice suddenly came over. Hey, what are you so happy about? We're not done yet. It's you. One Flower, One World looked up and was so shocked that he almost fell to the ground. Right in front of him, a Grandmaster of Combat was smiling at him. That Grandmaster Combat was tall and strong. Who else could it be but Wang Yu? It's me. Wang Yu chuckled and grabbed One Flower, One World's neck. He pressed him to the ground and then stepped on One Flower, One World's head, turning it into a white light. One Flower, One World, who had returned to the revival point, shouted hysterically in the channel, "Everyone, don't relax. There's still one person who hasn't left. Find him and kill him 100 times to vent your anger." Hey, what are you doing? Just then, that nightmarish voice rang in One Flower, One World's ears again. Just now, One Flower and One World was standing not far away from the warrior camp, so Wang Yu quickly caught up. One Flower, One World shivered and said in a panic, "None of your business. What are you doing? Don't tell me you want to kill me at the revival point?" Although the revival point was a safe zone, One Flower, One World, who had died twice in the hands of Wang Yu, could not help but panic. At the same time, One Flower, One World sent another message in the channel. "Come to the warrior camp, quick. That person is here. Are you stupid? How can you kill people at the revival point?" Wang Yu said with a smile. One Flower, One World let out a long sigh of relief. It seemed that no matter how amazing this kid was, he could not challenge the system's settings. However, the next second, One Flower, One World's face was covered in tears. This was because Wang Yu pointed at the two NPC guards at the revival point and said, "Take that person out. We are willing to serve the warrior." The two guards saluted Wang Yu. One of them charged into the resurrection point, and the other collided with One Flower and One World, sending One Flower and One World flying out. Wang Yu stretched out his arms and reached out to catch them. Bang, bang. With two knee strikes, One Flower, One World was killed on the spot. 20 seconds later, One Flower, One World was forcefully revived. He subconsciously leaned against the wall, pointed at the guards and shouted, "I'm going to sue you." With the guards' intelligence, how could they understand him? They only looked at Wang Yu blankly and waited for Wang Yu's second order. "You're cheating. Don't you know that? You'll get your account suspended." One Flower, One World pointed at Wang Yu in horror. For an outsider like One Flower, One World, being able to command an NPC to help kill someone was a supernatural event. Normal people would find it hard to accept when they encountered it for the first time. Wang Yu laughed and said, "Then come out and fight me yourself." "Just you wait, I'll come out now." One Flower, One World took 2 steps forward and was about to charge. Wang Yu smiled and kicked back with his left leg. An assassin was kicked out of thin air and turned into a white light. Then, Wang Yu rolled forward and rolled into the revival point. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.